Xia Chujian, who was born and raised in the Beichen Galaxy, always felt ordinary and ordinary. However, Huo Yushen, the youngest marshal of the Beichen Empire, did not think so. Because he had never seen anyone staring directly at those indescribable beings deep in the starry sky, who would not collapse and go crazy. Only she is the exception. Xia Chujian couldn't understand. Look at it. Ugly, no one is allowed to see it anymore. Heartbroken crowd. Tired, destroy it, hurry up. Keywords of the novel. I am in the Star Trek classic of mountains and seas without a pop-up window. I am downloading the complete text of the Star Trek classic of mountains and seas. I am reading the latest chapters of the Star Trek classic of mountains and seas. Chapter 1. 1 stop, 2 stop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. 1 stop, 2 stop. The dark night sky, the moonlight is like silver frost, like a light veil, sprinkling onto the earth. The cold wind is piercing to the bone. In early summer, I saw myself kneeling on one leg on the rooftop of a 12-story building. With a click, I opened the gun case and my hands were as fast as lightning. In an instant, I set up the Judge 7 sniper rifle with a 12mm caliber. From the perspective of the sniper rifle's objective lens, Mulan City in the dark night is like a deep gray steel forest with ups and downs. There are skyscrapers towering into the sky, as well as winding alleys that are dark, narrow, and endless. The edge of the tall building shimmered with colorful neon lights, and floating airships hovered in the night sky dragging long self-illuminating billboards, embellishing the colorful night scene. The bright areas became brighter, and the dark areas became darker, like two worlds with distinct black and white. She looked at the time and it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Pedestrians are scarce on the streets, and the inner city suspended trains have long been suspended. Occasionally, a few small private aircraft flew past her sight, emitting white smoke that quickly dissipated. The low voice of Captain Yishiji came from the team channel of the earphones. The members of Team 321, Group 9 of the Yuan branch of the Dark Knight Hunter Association, report their numbers. Number 2 Li Bing, on the left, in position. Before the third Song and Ming dynasties, on the right, in position. Number 4, Ping Qiong, assist from the left, in position. It's the 5th in early summer. She spoke calmly and said, see you at the beginning of summer on the 5th, with a straight distance of 1,200 meters. The 12th floor rooftop is in place. Yishiji is the captain, number 1. He nodded and said, number 1 Yishiji, captain and operational commander, with assistance from the right side, in place. Repeat. Today's task is to destroy a human trafficking stronghold in the western district of Mulan City. According to reports, room 004 on the first floor of building 334 in the western 089 district harbors a group of abducted boys and girls who will be transported out of Mulan City tomorrow. The 5 human traffickers are all genetic evolutionists, with 2D.level and 3E.level mental abilities. They are very brutal and have numerous bloodshed cases. The task we received is to kill these 5 vendors and rescue the victims. The team members all responded together, received. Xia Chujian lowered his head, patiently loaded each bullet weighing 80 grams into his sniper rifle, and then lay on the rooftop, aiming the muzzle scope at their ambush target for today. That is a low 6-story small building, interspersed among several skyscrapers that reach hundreds of floors, almost buried in the darkness. The house is very dilapidated, without the use of new building materials, but with ancient steel and cement. The cement on the wall fell off severely, and the black steel bars were exposed, resembling the bones of a ferocious beast in the darkness. The group of brutal traffickers and abducted young boys and girls are located in the 4th room on the first floor of that 6-story building. Looking from her, it happens to be a straight distance of 1,200 meters. The other 4 teammates have been ambushed at the left and right entrances of that room. And she is the remote support of her teammates, responsible for cleaning up those human traffickers who have escaped from the room and attempted to escape. The location she chose can be covered with heavy firepower from top to bottom in all directions without distinction. Even if the other party suddenly calls in an armed helicopter, she can guarantee to shoot one helicopter at a time and shoot without missing bullets. Xia Chujian was focused on his sight. The window of the target room is now tightly closed, and even the curtains are tightly drawn. Most people cannot see inside. But her sniper rifle's scope has a high-precision thermal imaging perspective system, and the walls of the opponent's room are only ancient steel and cement, which does not have the function of shielding the thermal imaging perspective system. Therefore, the situation inside can be clearly seen through a wall. At this moment, people were lying on the ground in a room of about 20 square meters. It looks like they are both very young men and women, probably the boys and girls who were abducted as mentioned by Captain Xia. She said on the team channel, report. There are 12 girls and 12 boys in the room, who should be victims and all in a coma. There are also 5 adult men, who should be human traffickers and drinking alcohol. Please take action. The report is over. The helmets and eyepieces of other team members are also equipped with the same high-precision thermal imaging perspective system, which functions like the scope of the Xia Chujian sniper rifle and can clearly see the situation inside the wall. Captain Xia looked at it and shook his head, refusing to say, those 2D-level gene evolutionists have very keen intuition. Don't aim your sniper rifle for now, they have been looking in the direction of the window. Xia Chujian pursed her lips and slightly moved the muzzle 1 millimeter away. I waited a few more minutes. The 5 vendors were burping and getting drunk, standing up from the ground. They walked up to the motionless young boys and girls lying on the ground, bent down, and played with these unconscious victims one by one, as if picking goods. At the beginning of summer, when we met, we sank like water and moved the muzzle of our sniper rifle back. The thickest peddler grinned and untied his belt, fiercely thrusting at a young girl lying on the ground. Pop! The girl's clothes on her right shoulder were pulled open, revealing her snow-white skin. At the same time, a ferocious red mark appeared on her skin, which was as bright as the first snow. It was the mark left by the belt. Xia Chujian's finger slightly tightened as he pulled the trigger, and he once again said in the team channel, report to the captain, one of the human traffickers is beating the victim, requesting to take action. Xia also saw it from the lens on the helmet. His voice was calm without any ups and downs. This is a D-level genetic evolutioner, and our team only has me and Song Mingqian as D-level evolutioners, and I am intermediate, while Song Mingqian is only beginner. Li Bing and Ping Qiong are both E-level, and you are an ordinary person whose genes cannot evolve. Do you think we have an absolute chance of winning by taking action at this time? When does the captain think there is an absolute chance of winning? Xia Chujian's voice was also calm, but his pace was a bit fast. Because she saw that the vendor had already thrown away the belt and started tearing at the girl's clothes, occasionally slapping her in the face. The girl was unconscious and manipulated like a rag doll. Xia remained silent for a second and said, when they are halfway through the task. That's when their vigilance is at its lowest, and it's also our best time. What does it mean to get things done halfway? Xia Chujian was puzzled and didn't understand for a moment. Xia awkwardly tugged at the corner of his mouth. Li Bing explained more bluntly on the team channel, it's halfway through the rape victims. Xia Chu exploded upon hearing this and said, so what the captain meant was to wait until they actually violated those victims before taking action. Don't you think it's already too late? After saying, it's too late, she didn't hesitate to pull the trigger in her hand. A heavy sniper rifle bullet weighing 80 grams and 150 millimeters in length silently spun and shot out of her sniper rifle. Draw a parabola in the night sky that cannot be seen clearly by the naked eye. In just 1.5 seconds, it pierces through the already dilapidated wall, hits the man's back with a loud bang, and then rushes out from his forehead, piercing through the opposite wall. Under the powerful kinetic energy of sniper bullets, the man who was about to lean over the unconscious girl fell forward with a thud, and the blood sprayed from his forehead immediately dyed the girl lying on the ground red. The other 4 men turned their heads in shock. Alcohol made them slow to react. Even though they were all genetically evolved, they had not yet reacted. At the beginning of summer, I saw a sniper rifle without any need to adjust the data. I simply rotated the muzzle and fired at the designated point while looking at the scope with the naked eye. At this time, she no longer specifically targets the location of her brain, but only focuses on the opponent's fatal parts, such as the chest, thigh arteries, or neck. Anyway, aim wherever it's convenient and fast. She was furious in her heart, but still calm and composed, possessing the excellent character of a sniper. Kazuo. 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 Shooting Judge 7 with a big sniper, at lightning speed, he swiftly retreated his magazine 5 times in a row. In less than 3 seconds, the sniper rifle equipped with top-notch silencers, as its name suggests, is the ultimate judge. After several vibrations of the barrel, all 5 vendors in the room died under her sniper rifle. Xia Chujian half knelt up to collect his gun, and at the same time said on the team channel, all 5 famous vendors have been killed. The report is complete. Yi Shiji squinted his eyes and didn't say much before giving the order, enter the house and start the operation. The other 3 team members looked at each other and quickly crawled out of their hiding place. Li Bing runs the fastest. He is tall and wearing a dark brown fur coat, like an adult brown bear. With a loud bang, he lifted his foot and kicked the door open. The room was in a mess. In addition to the more than 20 abducted boys and girls, there are also 5 men lying in a pool of blood, who are the human traffickers they are going to kill tonight. Li Bing gave a strange smile and gave a thumbs up in the direction of the window, saying, "You're amazing at first sight. You're going on a mission at first sight, nothing grows." Ping Qiong poked her head behind him and saw the situation inside the room. She clicked twice and said, "Tonight, I picked up a merit for nothing. It's my first time seeing you, little sister. Thank you very much." Song Ming walked in and shook off the long hair he had specially left on his forehead, posing in a self-proclaimed carefree posture. "Take a photo. My smart bracelet needs a new cover." "Abnormal." Ping Qiong rolled her eyes, but still took a set of photos of him with a smart bracelet. Xia Chujian shrugged his shoulders and calmly said in the team channel, "Caliber is justice, range is truth. You should thank the newly developed Judge 7 sniper by Zong's military industry." Yi Shiji was the last one to come in. His face didn't look very good, so he walked around the room and took many on-site photos with his smart bracelet, which were transmitted to the StarNet cloud system of the Night Hunter Association's branch in Mulan City. Although Li Bing has a rough and wild appearance, his mind is still very delicate. As soon as he saw Yi Shiji's expression, he knew what he was thinking. With a smile, he rubbed his arm against him and whispered, "Captain, don't have the same opinion as Xia Chujian. She's only 17 years old and not yet of age." Ping Qiong and Song Mingqian nodded together and said, "Captain, you have a lot of knowledge. Don't be the same as Xia Chujian." Yi Shiji glanced at them and said indifferently, "You just get used to her. This is not conducive to her growth. As long as she apologizes and guarantees that it will not happen again, I will consider it as not happening." "I know. When we turn around, we'll definitely cut her off." Li Bing smiled playfully and waved toward Song Ming, skillfully dragging the 2 killed people out. Xia Chujian heard her teammates pleading for her on the team channel, feeling warm in her heart, but she didn't want to apologize to the captain. She plans to interrupt and get rid of the apology. At this moment, a sudden scream came from the team channel of the earphones. It's Ping Qiong's voice. Xia Chujian quickly looked through the scope of the sniper rifle. "I saw a sudden change in the cabin. The human trafficker who was first shot dead by Xia Chujian stood up unsteadily from the ground. He turned around, his face covered in black, and red blood stains. There was a hole the size of an egg on his forehead, and he could see the wall behind him from his forehead. It was a piercing wound she had sniped through. People who have their brains beaten out cannot live. Ping Qiong, who was closest to him, couldn't help but scream in surprise. The human trafficker, who had already been beaten to death, staggered forward a few steps and then suddenly opened his mouth wide. A thick, trunk-like gray tentacle whizzed out of his mouth and rolled towards the nearest Ping Qiong. Ping Qiong, who was screaming subconsciously, was suddenly wrapped around her neck by the tentacle, pressing all the remaining screams down her throat. Yi Shiji, Li Bing, and the first three of Song Ming immediately reflexively raised their guns and aimed at the human trafficker. Bang bang bang. Their marksmanship wouldn't have been so bad originally. But as soon as they raised their guns, there was a sharp pain in their heads, as if someone had smashed their foreheads with an axe and stuffed a burning red soldering iron inside, causing them to smoke. They are unable to concentrate and their guns cannot be aimed at. Fingers twitched and pulled the trigger, there's no such thing as accuracy. Xia Chujian on the distant rooftop suddenly changed color and immediately got down to aim at the tentacle with a sniper rifle. But that tentacle seems to have 1,000-mile eye. As soon as Xia Chu took aim, his tentacles retracted and hid behind Ping Qiong, pinching her neck, making her unable to move and using her as his own shield. This makes it impossible to use sniper. Xia Chu's eyes were cold and solemn, and she made a decision in an instant. She picked up her sniper rifle, carried a half-person high gun box on her back, took an arrow step forward, jumped onto a small combat aircraft parked on the edge of the rooftop, and rushed towards her teammates. With a straight line distance of only 1,200 meters, taking this small combat aircraft can arrive in just 1 minute. Instead of finding an opportunity to snipe the tentacle monster from here, it's better to go over immediately and act according to the situation. The autopilot function of the small combat aircraft that Xia Chujian was riding on was very excellent. During this time, she happened to free up her hands and in just 20 seconds, she successfully mounted the fully automatic Starling 800 intelligent machine gun that came with the aircraft. The bullets of a fully automatic machine gun are not as long and heavy as those of a sniper rifle, but their firing speed is much faster. Driven by the same kinetic energy, 800 bullets can be fired in 1 second. Quantitative changes can still cause qualitative changes. By the time her small combat aircraft landed on the open space in front of the 6-story building, her teammates in the room had already fallen to the ground, like the unconscious young boys and girls, all unconscious. And the man with tentacles growing out of his mouth was searching among the fainting young boys and girls in the room, not knowing what he was looking for. In early summer, upon arriving, I saw the situation inside the room through the high-precision thermal imaging perspective camera on my helmet and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they should still be alive. She didn't act recklessly, but stayed in the small combat aircraft and quickly pulled out loose parts from the gun box to assemble a Contender 700 semi-automatic miniature submachine gun. Dear children, after all this delay, we have finally released a new book. ********. This is the first time a cute new author has come to Shaoxiang to write an article. As a newcomer, I don't understand anything. Please take good care of me. Those who have tickets will hold a ticket court, while those who do not have tickets will hold a personal court, *****, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. All fear originates from insufficient firepower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. All fear originates from insufficient firepower. In the room, the vendor seemed to dislike the slow speed of searching with just one tentacle. He looked up, with his mouth wide open like a giant silver carp, and more tentacles appeared. At first, there was only one, but now there are 4 or 5 tentacles as thick as an elephant trunk, protruding from the depths of his throat, as if his body is an abyss that can crawl out of monsters at any time. Seeing this scene in early summer, I felt extremely nauseous. She hates tentacles the most and firmly refuses close contact, so she has no intention of entering the room and engaging in close combat. Besides, she is a sniper, and long-range attacks are her strengths. Moreover, she is not a genetic evolutioner, so she couldn't help but go into melee and use her own weaknesses to attack other strengths, which is disrespectful of her long life. In early summer, I saw a small combat aircraft kneeling on one leg, and the semi-transparent flight cover of the aircraft opened with a loud sound. She held her Judge No. 7 sniper and aimed at the tentacle at the other end of the wall through a 3-dimensional imaging objective. Kazuo. A shot with a top-notch silencer pierced through the wall and directly pierced through a tentacle that was inspecting the victims. The tentacle vendor was completely unprepared, and in an instant, he was carried by the powerful kinetic energy of the sniper rifle bullet and quickly flew backwards until he hit the wall before falling heavily with a loud bang. This completely angered those tentacles. Boom! The door of the cabin was suddenly pushed open. A pungent smell of rotten fish and shrimp that seemed to have been stored for thousands of years rushed towards the outside of the house. Then, 3 or 4 large tentacles rapidly extended and shot out from inside the room, rolling straight towards the aircraft on the ground outside the room. At the beginning of summer, I almost rose to the sky in place due to the foul smell. This is a biochemical weapon, isn't it? It's strictly prohibited by the Empire. How unreasonable. It's not about martial arts. She muttered as she quickly activated the microbial defense function on the mask, filtering out any odors or toxic odors. At the same time, she opened the mechanical intelligence system of the Starling 800 fully automatic machine gun with the other hand, locking in the tentacles that came rushing towards her. The Starling machine gun equipped on a small combat aircraft, although the initial model, is already a mature fully automatic intelligent machine gun that can fight monsters on its own. The automatic magazine, along with the ammunition equipment box, is like a highly precise assembly line, continuously delivering bullets to the fully automatic intelligent machine gun. It can not only fire 800 rounds per second, but sometimes even reach a terrifying shooting volume of 1,000 rounds per second. The bullets rained down like rain, all landing on the empty ground in front of the building. The strong smell of sulfur in the gunpowder actually suppressed the foul odor that emitted from the deep decay of carbon-based organisms. Xia Chujian can't smell anything now because she has activated the microbial defense function of the mask, but she can see from the data displayed in the mask's built-in system that the pollution level of the outside air is decreasing sharply. Those 4 or 5 tentacles are not as powerful as usual. They danced themselves as tightly as a spinning wheel of a Ferris wheel, but before they could roll over, they were caught off guard by the all-round coverage of the shooting volume. The tentacles have rough skin and thick flesh, and grow rapidly, but they still cannot withstand such fierce firepower. Instantly, the massive amount of ammunition poured out turned it into a sieve, still a long, elongated sieve. Those tentacles seemed to have been knocked unconscious, as if they had never been subjected to such a direct and fierce attack before, psychologically completely unable to accept it, and stood still in the air for a moment. Next, suction cups protrude from the rough surface of each tentacle, and the tips of the suction cups open and close, like octopus legs covered in their mouths. Waves of high-frequency roars emanated from the densely packed suction cups. The weapons seen in early summer all come with top-notch soundproofing equipment, which doesn't make much noise even in quiet nights. But at first, this tentacle roared, and countless residents in the surrounding area woke up from their sleep, clutching their heads and rolling on the bed, in pain that they wished they could chop off their heads. Xia Chujian didn't feel a headache, she only felt noisy. This sound is really unpleasant, like sandpaper polishing on a rough and rusty iron plate, making one's gums soften. What a powerful sound wave attack! Xia Chujian murmured and raised his hand to press the button, instantly activating the sound insulation mode of the smart helmet. The world suddenly quieted down. Those tentacles immediately took advantage of this opportunity to leap forward. One of the tentacles managed to dodge the rapid firepower and rushed forward to meet in early summer, jumping in a straight line with a hard cone-like tip, attempting to pierce her directly. Xia Chujian remained calm and composed, and the contender in his hand, 700 semi-automatic micro-charge, followed the sudden opening. She fought alongside the startling fully automatic intelligent machine gun, shooting fiercely at the approaching tentacles and mercilessly spraying bullets. Within 2 minutes, 2 guns fired nearly 100,000 rounds, almost clearing all ammunition inventory in small combat aircraft. The waving tentacles grow rapidly, and the speed of division is even more astonishing. They can regenerate limbs in minutes. No matter how long they grow, they cannot keep up with the speed of division and growth under strong and rapid firepower suppression. Not long after, the lifeless tentacles were shattered and scattered around small combat aircraft, with no new tentacles emerging from the vendor's mouth. In early summer, I let out a long sigh and sat slumped in a small combat aircraft, wiping the sweat off my forehead and removing the sound insulation mode of my helmet. It's so thrilling. She fired 100,000 bullets in 2 minutes, although most of them were self-propelled by fully automatic intelligent machine guns. However, her competitor 700 semi-automatic micro-charge still had to rely on her manual firing. My right arm is completely numb, and half of my body doesn't look like mine. After she killed those tentacles, her teammates who had fainted in the room woke up one after another. The first action was taken by Li Bing. He held up an extended Assassin 850 intelligent aiming pistol that could hold up to 80 bullets and roared out of the room. On the empty ground in front of the building, a small combat aircraft the size of a box car was parked quietly. In the semi-open cockpit of the aircraft, a fully automatic intelligent machine gun of the Black Sinking Star Trail-in 800 is exposed. I feel a sense of security now. Li Bing's eyes turned red and he was moved to tears. First time I saw you. You're here. Where's that tentacle monster? Be careful, don't step on it. Xia Chu pointed to the ground. Li Bing lowered his head and realized that the human trafficker who had protruding thick tentacles from his mouth after death had been beaten to the point where only a human skin was left. Long, short, and burnt black tentacles scattered on the ground, covered in shiny silver-black shells, and the air was filled with a strong smell of sulfur, like the smell of setting off firecrackers on the streets during the Chinese New Year. Li Bing widened his eyes in surprise and said, "Did you just kill this monster with a gun? How could you resist the spiritual attack of that tentacle monster?" Not to mention fighting back with a gun, he was in pain inside the room and passed out completely, losing his ability to move. Ping Qiong, Song Mingqian, and Yi Shiji, who rushed out of the room, also saw the situation on the empty ground and fell silent together. Yi Shiji stared at Xia Chujian and said coldly, "The tentacle monster's mental attack has at least a C. level. Song Mingqian and I are D. level gene evolutionists with mental strength that we can't resist." "You don't have any mental strength, how did you handle it?" Xia Chujian frowned and said, "Mental attack? No, it's just a sonic attack." She pointed to her helmet and said, "I turned on soundproofing mode." However, the extremely unpleasant sound of a broken gong throat and the foul smell like a biological weapon were indeed equivalent to a mental attack. Xia Chujian silently muttered in her heart. "Surprisingly, they didn't attack you mentally. Impossible. Why did they open up to you?" Yi Shiji raised the smart bracelet on his arm, took a photo of the scene, and occasionally glanced at Xia Chujian in confusion. Xia Chujian calmly flattered and said, "Perhaps their spiritual power has been exhausted. Captain, you are not a fuel-efficient lamp. Just by knocking you down, they are already at the end of their strength. When it comes to me, isn't there only sound wave attacks left?" In fact, she didn't understand why, but she did not feel any mental attack. Of course, this may also be related to her not being a genetic evolutionary individual and having no spiritual power at all. She summed up seriously, "Because I don't have mental power cannot attack me." Because I don't have spiritual power cannot attack me. Her teammates stared at her with a look of, if you dare to talk nonsense again, you will be kicked out of the team. Everyone knows that ordinary people without spiritual power are like lambs waiting to be slaughtered in front of genetically evolved individuals with spiritual power, with no room for resistance at all. If you don't believe it, go ask those ordinary people who are often slaughtered by genetic evolutionists. Those people may have to open their coffins and fight against Xia Chu. Where is there a situation where there is no spiritual power, so spiritual power cannot attack me? Xia Chujian is just a fabrication. In fact, genetic evolution is not possible, there is no spiritual power, it is the eternal pain in the chest seen in early summer. She had to numb herself with some weird reasons, otherwise this day would really be unbearable. Li Bing scratched his head and said with a smile. Even sound wave attacks are difficult to stop. How did you counterattack at first sight? Xia Chujian patted the motionless fully automatic Starling intelligent machine gun beside him and smiled, saying, of course it's a fight for war. With my best comrade in arms, fight back with the most beautiful voice in the universe. Starlings babbling, Shent's Zintalin's rumble. They used to know that in early summer, she was able to talk nonsense, but today her level of nonsense is really beyond the limit. My teammates have turned pale in the face. Xia Chujian still clasped his hands and looked devout, saying, Nanwuxing Tailin Bodhisattva is compassionate and compassionate, saving all sentient beings. There is resentment and revenge. Yi Shiji lowered his face and said, speak up. Xia Chujian opened his hand and explained earnestly, all fear stems from insufficient firepower. Conversely, as long as there is enough firepower, there is no fear in this world. As long as there are enough bullets, even if it's a B.level tentacle monster, I can shoot it without fail. Upon hearing him say this, Yi Shiji seemed to remember something. He quickly walked up to the small combat aircraft and his face turned pale. Summer. Early. See you. How many bullets did you use? 100,000 rounds, what's wrong? Li Bing. Song Mingqian. Yi Shiji was furious and fiercely charged towards Xia Chujian. Li Bing. Captain, please calm down. Song Mingqian. First time I saw you, quickly argue. Li Bing and Song Mingqian chased after Yi Shiji, one left and one right, to prevent him from really strangling Xia Chujian. Yi Shiji roared with veins bulging around his neck and said, you're a spendthrift girl. You can't use all your ammunition inventory either. Do you know how much it costs to have 100,000 rounds of ammunition? Ah. Ping Qiong rolled her eyes, rubbed her neck, and walked over with lingering fear. She jumped into a small combat aircraft, grabbed Xia Chujian's arm and gave way to the Captain Yi Shiji, who had transformed into a Spitfire dragon. She deliberately shouted loudly, I saw that your luck was really good, you didn't get mentally attacked. We just walked through a ghost gate. Look at my neck, it almost strangled me. Xia Chujian gently stroked the Contender 700 in her arms and said calmly, I'm not a genetic evolutioner, nor do I have mental power. You've all passed out again. What should I use without bullets? Is it harder to compete with someone screams to hear their voice? Yi Shiji stared at her as he was about to continue training her. Suddenly, from the high-performance Bluetooth embedded earphones, there was a buzzing sound of a large drone not far away, followed by the deafening roar of helicopters and the sound of brakes coming from afar. The regular army is here. We have to go. Yi Shiji's face changed and he didn't have time to continue cursing Xia Chujian. He quickly jumped into the small combat aircraft. Li Bing and Song Mingqian also jumped in. Xia Chujian immediately closed the semi-transparent flight hood, pressed an address, and activated automatic flight. The small combat aircraft emitted a brilliant firelight, quickly took off in a straight line, and then entered stealth mode to leave here. Not long after they had flown away, a very low-key and luxurious large private aircraft emerged from mid-air and slowly landed on the open space in front of the building. The cabin door of the aircraft opened, and a tall woman wearing a black fur cloak, hood, and a veil stumbled down from the aircraft and rushed into the room where many abducted boys and girls were hidden. Several women with guard-like appearances followed behind her and also entered the room. Not long after, they came out of the room protecting the woman wearing a hood and veil. The woman was no longer alone, still holding someone in her arms. She no longer wore a cloak, revealing her slender and graceful figure. The previous cloak was draped over the person she was holding in her arms. The group hurriedly boarded the aircraft and quickly left. After they left, more and more small armored vehicles, drones, and helicopters roared over, tightly surrounding the 6-story building. Large drones surrounded the small building from the air, while shining dazzling white lights at 360 degrees without blind spots, illuminating the area like daylight. Several people wearing black and silver-edged uniforms got off the small armored vehicle. They held their guns and looked around cautiously before entering the open space in front of the building. When they saw the scattered tentacle fragments on the open ground, shrapnel on the ground, and a torn human skin, as well as the lingering smell of sulfur in the air, they all fell silent. Is this killing the tentacle monster with a bullet? Can you still play like this? The update frequency is 1 update per day during the new book period, with daily updates at midnight. After being put on the shelves, 2 updates are tentatively scheduled. Time to be determined. Thank you for your support, readers. Do you have any monthly tickets? ********. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Carbon-based organisms rich in high protein. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Carbon-based organisms rich in high protein. Nanping subordinates looked incredulous. Lieutenant E, these tentacle monsters are clearly leftover species that can infect parasitic humans. When will they be killed by bullets? Yes, Lieutenant E, didn't it say above that when encountering a special creature related to legacy species, it is necessary to call for superior support and have a mentally strong individual with a high level of genetic evolution take action? Nanping recalled his painful experience of struggling with these leftover species with spiritual power last time. He rubbed his nose with his hand and said discontentedly, "You're not an analyzer. How can you conclude that it was a bullet that killed you? Let's go in and search for instruments to determine if there are any remaining surviving species. The second group will conduct a weapons inspection to see if they can identify who took the action." He issued orders in an orderly manner. Yes, Lieutenant E. These people are the regular army in Yishiji's mouth. Just the few large bomb-mounted drones surrounding the 6-story building indicate that their instruments and equipment are clearly much stronger than those of Yishiji and other hunters. Under the command of Nanping, a group wearing black protective clothing entered the room carrying instruments. The second group wearing camouflage uniforms carried instruments to detect the remaining military weapons on the open space in front of the building. 5 minutes later, a group of members came out of the room and gestured, saying, "Lieutenant E, we have checked everything. There are only 4 vendors left in the room, all of whom were fatal with 1 shot and no residual seeds. There are also 23 abducted victims, all of whom died and have not been infected with any seeds." Nanping frowned and walked over to the human skin on the ground, wondering, is this the only person who has been left behind after being planted? Unfortunately, it looks like this. A group of members wearing black protective clothing bent down and collected the sifted human skin as important evidence. Another military equipment testing technician said to Nanping, "Captain, after testing, the shells on the ground are all 0.85 and 0.93 bullets produced by the Zhongshan military industry this year. These 2 types of bullets can only be legally purchased by a few organizations in China, except for military equipment." Nanping sneered, "Our Beichen Empire controls firearms, but we don't care about making bullets. The bullets of the Zhong family's military industry can be bought with money, so there is no legal or illegal issue. His subordinates were scolded to the point of silence, and they were used to it. Nanping crouched down and stared at the thickest remaining tentacle in the middle of the shell casings on the ground, lost in thought. The tentacle was burnt black by the gunpowder of the bullet, like a burnt octopus leg, but the size was too large, it was a burnt elephant clam octopus leg. He had a sharp gaze, staring closely at the tentacle, as if to use his gaze as an analyzer to analyze its structure. He did use psychic detection, but found nothing. This tentacle limb burned by ammunition is so dead that it can no longer die, and the material structure at this time is no different from the seafood that humans use as food. The only conclusion that can be drawn is that they are all carbon-based organisms, equally rich in high protein. Nanping slowly stood up and frowned, saying, "Don't you have any living tentacles?" He still held a glimmer of hope, because based on their past experience, the tentacle vitality generated by these remnants is very tenacious, even if only a small segment of cellular tissue is left, it can still regenerate. However, the results of this survey do not support this conclusion. Report to the captain, confirm that none are alive, they are all cell-level deaths. Unfortunately, Nanping sighed again. His subordinates put the burnt tentacles in a semi-transparent evidence bag and said, "In recent years, there have been 3 incidents of tentacle monsters injuring people. No one can use conventional weapons to strike them every time, because their spiritual attacks are incredibly powerful and strange, even at a low level. However, for us humans, even the C-level peak of spiritual strength cannot be countered, and of course, we cannot use conventional weapons to launch counterattacks. If the results of this test can prove that they were really killed by conventional weapons, it would be very exciting news. Yeah, in the past few times, only one time was when Lieutenant E grabbed a tentacle and lived for about a week, and now he only got the word leftover seed from it. This time, the tentacle monster has stronger strength than previous times, but they were all killed, which is indeed a pity." Nanping looked up at the night sky with his hands behind his back and murmured, "If we had come a minute earlier. If we had come a minute earlier, we would have at least obtained a living tentacle monster. Or you can also know who is so cruel, using conventional weapons to defeat the remnants that require advanced spiritual power like seafood." His subordinates heard the 3 words, seafood, and their expressions suddenly became strange, with a feeling of suffocation that made them want to vomit. It is estimated that everyone will not want to eat seafood for a long time in the future. Nanping didn't think so much. He frowned and walked into the room to carefully explore, then came out to look around, while also taking a look at the open space in front of the building and the environment within a radius of 1 kilometer. The special glasses attached to his helmet are like a high-energy computer, which can capture all the surrounding environment and upload it to the mechanical intelligence system in the cloud for high-energy modeling, which can better perform data analysis. Continuing with the command, take away everything here, including the shell casings and tentacle limbs on the ground. Ask the local disciplinary department to notify the reporting parents to come and claim these deceased abducted victims. This building is completely sealed off, and all residents inside must be relocated." He watched his subordinates clean up the mess while waiting for the analysis results from the technical department. Suddenly, the nanoscale quantum optical brain embedded in the back of Nanping's brain emitted information instructions, which were directly transmitted to his brain through the brain-computer interface. Lieutenant Nanping, Group 12, Zone 3, Mulan City Branch of the Special Security Bureau, please go to the safe house at number 244, Zone 8 of the same city to receive inquiries from superiors. The electronic sound simulated by quantum optical brain repeated this message 3 times before stopping. Nanping responded with a yes in his mind. He calmly brought in a small combat aircraft and ordered, "I left beforehand. Please handle it and send me a message. Remember, this place must be locked down." "Yes, Lieutenant E." In less than 5 minutes, Nanping arrived at the safe house at number 244, Zone 8, Mulan City, as instructed by his superiors. The person opening the door is a short and sturdy machine butler. It is not humanoid, but a cylindrical mechanical body with 4 robotic arms and a circular mechanical chassis as a moving tool. Nanping walked in and the door automatically closed with a clang. Inside, it was originally an ordinary residential home, but after closing the door, the light and shadow inside changed and quickly became a small conference room. Nanping knew that this was actually 3D holographic projection technology, but it was too realistic and looked just like real. A man wearing a dark gray military uniform with silver trim sat at the head of the conference table with a serious expression, staring at Nanping, who went to the scene today. Under the military cap of the same color as his uniform, his appearance was so handsome that he even had a bit of a feminine appearance, but his gaze was slightly pressured, indicating that he was not a good person to criticize. The man first introduced himself and said, "I am Colonel Zhong Rowan from the Information Department of the Special Security Bureau headquarters. I just received the data you uploaded and I need to confirm some information with you." Nan said in parallel military salute, "Yes, Colonel Zhong. Are you Lieutenant Nanping from Group 12, Zone 3 of the Special Security Bureau's Mulan City branch?" "Yes. Lieutenant first of all, where did you get the news today that there were leftover seeds appearing in Mulan City? Secondly, why did you not capture them alive this time, but instead killed all the leftover seeds?" Nanping smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Colonel Zhong, I'm also very puzzled about this matter and think it's very strange. Say. We received a message at 1:15 a.m. from the local disciplinary office in Mulan City that there were legacy species appearing in our jurisdiction. Based on past experience, the local disciplinary department is unable to handle cases related to genetic inheritance and must mobilize the elite team of genetic evolutionists with strong mental abilities from the Special Security Bureau. I once handled a case related to leftover seeds, and it was closest to the location where leftover seeds appeared, so I was notified to be present as soon as possible. We arrived at the scene at 1:45 am. We could have arrived 10 minutes earlier, but we were stopped by our superiors and waited in place for 10 minutes before passing." Upon hearing this, Zhong Rowan nodded and calmly said, "I know about the suspension, it's not your fault." As he spoke, he waved his hand and the 3-dimensional holographic projection in front of him changed, creating 3 different scenes. Although the time and place are different, these 3 scenes are all the same, bloody and terrifying. Zhong Rowan lightly tapped his finger and pointed to the first scene, saying, "This is a rare relic of a creature that has only emerged in recent years. This kind of creature is very difficult to deal with, and once it appears, it will cause widespread casualties. 3 years ago, it first appeared, infecting and devouring more than 300 people from a commercial company in the central district of Mulan City. 2 years ago, it made its second appearance and was infected in the eastern district, devouring all floors of a residential unit, totaling more than 500 people. A year ago, it appeared for the 3rd time, and this time everyone was prepared. When it appeared, it happened to encounter you on a mission. After being infected and devouring 18 people, you captured it alive and survived for a week. During this time, we only heard about the term legacy from it. This is the 4th time it has appeared." Nanping stood straight and said seriously, "Yes, Colonel Zhong. Based on our previous 3 experiences, although the spiritual power level of this rare creature, Zhong, is not high, it has a very strong infectious ability. With just a little bit of microcellular tissue, it can survive and infect the organism, and absorb nutrients from the host, growing rapidly. And their spiritual power is very unique, not high in level, but extremely penetrating, almost completely ignoring any defense measures, directly targeting the brain's action control system. So if we encounter it, even genetic evolutionists cannot use force to subdue them, because they will be controlled by their minds and cannot operate weapons. This is also the reason why conventional weapons never work. And their reproductive mode is split reproduction. We determine that conventional weapons are not effective because conventional weapons simply cannot kill all tentacles at once. So it must be countered by mentally strong individuals with high levels of genetic evolution in a crushing manner, in order to completely eliminate all infected species at once and prevent them from continuing to divide and reproduce. Of course, their judgment needs to be revised after today. Conventional weapons may still be effective. Yi Nanping silently thought in his heart. Zhong Ruoan hugged his arms, narrowed his deep black eyes slightly, and said thoughtfully, Lieutenant Yi is a genetic evolutioner at the peak of B-level spiritual power. You happened to be on the scene when it appeared for the third time and captured a remnant. Now answer my second question, why did you not capture it alive this time, but instead killed all the remnant? Yi Nanping twitched his lips and said with a bitter smile, Colonel Zhong, this time, it actually has nothing to do with me. When we arrived, those tentacle remnants had completely died physically. Zhong Ruoan asked solemnly, is that so? Who killed them? In Mulan City, there are even more powerful spiritual beings than Lieutenant Yi. Yi Nanping was momentarily speechless. To be honest, he couldn't figure it out either. Although Mulan City is a large city, it is only one of the most remote cities on the Guiyuan star within the star domain of the northern Qin Empire, with a relatively large population. However, it can only rank in the last few places on the list of major cities in the entire northern Qin Empire. In this place, he is already a ceiling-level powerhouse as a genetic evolutionist with a B-level spiritual power peak. He can't think of anyone here who has a higher level than him. As he remained silent, Zhong Ruoan pondered and continued, the first few occurrences of the remnants only reach the peak of level D, so you can completely crush them. Based on past experience, humans need 2 levels of spiritual power to completely suppress the remnants and kill them. Based on the currently uploaded data, the spiritual power of this wave of legacy seeds should reach the peak of level C. This level of legacy seeds must have a strong person with the peak of spiritual power level A to crush and kill them. So you tell me, on the most remote planet of the Empire, Guiyuan Star, why do there appear strong individuals with A-level spiritual power? They are still outside the management of our Special Security Bureau. The A-level peak of spiritual power is even more terrifying than Yi Nanping, the ceiling-level powerhouse of Mulan City. The entire Beichen Empire, with its A-level spiritual power at its peak, is also a strong member of the first tier, and 99% of it is stationed in the capital star region of the Empire, Beichen Star. As Zhong Ruoan's words fell, the conference room fell into a deathly silence. After a while Yi Nanping said with a hint of bitterness, Colonel Zhong, in fact, there may be other organizations with strong spiritual power appearing in Mulan City. It's just that we don't know. For example, what? Not to mention anything else, at least there are powerful members in the Night Hunter Association. Yi Nanping was a bit unwilling, but shook his head helplessly. I really suspect that the members who took action before us were the members of the Night Hunter Association stationed in Mulan City. Recommended tickets can be cast, and monthly tickets can be cast once the signing status is changed. Thank you all. Please come to Xiaoxiang Academy to collect it. #carrot. #. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. A smile with money, always especially sweet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. A smile with money, always especially sweet. The Night Hunters. Zhong Ruoan frowned and nodded for a while. You make sense, but I forgot about them. However, I still don't understand. At best, the Night Hunters are just a spontaneous folk bounty hunter organization. How could there be so many strong ones? Since there are so powerful ones, why didn't they recruit our Special Security Bureau? Are the conditions we gave us not generous enough? Yi Nan thought to herself, you are the eldest and youngest of your family, always high and mighty. It is highly likely that you do not know how deep the water is in folk organizations like Night Hunters. He coughed and said, I'm just guessing. I need to investigate carefully who did it. In addition, the traces at the scene show that those tentacle remnants were killed by bullets 085 and 093 from Zhongshe military industry. Zhong's military industry belongs to the Zhong family, and Zhong Ruoan happens to be the eldest grandson of the Zhong family's generation. Zhong Ruoan looked up in shock and said, "Is it our Zhong family's military product?" He instinctively wanted to deny it, but soon felt it was inappropriate. The sentence twirled around his mouth, and in a different way, he wondered, would a bullet kill be just an appearance? Could it be to cover up the A-level peak of spiritual power behind this? Nanping frowned. He hadn't thought about it from this perspective yet, because the scene was too shocking. He almost immediately concluded that this wave of remnants was killed by conventional thermal weapons. Although there has never been a precedent before. From this perspective, Zhong Ruoan's analysis is still very reasonable. But the truth must be supported by actual data. Nanping stood at attention and said, "Yes, Colonel Zhong Mingjian. We will continue to investigate." Zhong Ruoan frowned and nodded, "Okay, you can continue investigating. Have you uploaded all the data? Our technical personnel are waiting for modeling and analysis." "All uploaded." "Well, keep working hard." Zhong Ruoan interrupted the call after speaking. As soon as the call ended, the light and shadow in this room changed, and it returned to its simple and unadorned appearance when it first entered. "It looks like an ordinary home residence." Just as Nanping was being questioned, Xia Chujian saw them discussing the regular army that had rushed to the team's combat aircraft. "Captain, this is clearly our hunter-hunting operation. How could these regular armies also interfere? Who are they? Where did they get the news from?" Li Bing was the first to express dissatisfaction. "Will anyone leak the secret?" Song Ming was always a skeptical person who was surrounded by trees and grass. "But there is only one concern. Our task is to kill human traffickers and rescue the abducted hostages. We have met the previous requirement, but the abducted hostages have not been taken away. Will this affect our performance settlement?" Yi Shiji was also puzzled in his heart, but he didn't reveal it. He just said calmly, "After I sent the on-site situation to the cloud system of the branch, it has been confirmed that we have completed the task, and it should not affect the score settlement. As for why the regular army can also be involved in this operation, that is the problem above." Yi Shiji did not explicitly state this. This is not something they should manage. A few people were complaining, but gradually, the joy and dark pleasure of surviving the disaster overshadowed those dissatisfaction, and their emotions were not suppressed much. 10 minutes later, they arrived at the location of the branch of the Night Hunter Association in Mulan City. This branch is located on the top floor of a commercial building in the central district of Mulan City. Standing on the top floor of a building hundreds of floors high, clouds glide through the soles of the feet, and the people on the ground look like ants. The small combat aircraft slowly landed on the rooftop balcony. Xia Chujian jumped out of the aircraft with his teammates. It's already 1:30 in the morning, and there aren't many people in the branch. However, due to the nature of the branch, there must be no one here for 24 hours. Entering through the bulletproof glass door on the balcony is the lobby of the branch. The interior decoration is simple and low-key, with the silver-white special metal covering the entire space from the ceiling to the ground. Walking in, it's like walking into an oval-shaped snow cave with a silver glow and high-tech content. There is a huge square counter in the center of the hall, which handles tasks release, score settlement, personnel allocation, and complaints and reports. Xia Chujian ran to the score settlement counter and said to the staff on duty, "I am a member of Team 321, Group 9, Zone 3, Guiyuan Branch. We have received task number 2578 with the ID number. Today, the task has been completed and all human traffickers have been successfully killed." Her focus is to emphasize that they killed all the human traffickers, which can blur another key point of the mission, which is to rescue the abducted victims. The staff used the supercomputer in front of them to search for a while, nodded and said, "The system confirms that Team 321, Group 9 of the Yuan Division, has successfully killed 5 human traffickers, rescued the abductees, completed the task, and can receive B.level merit." Ah! Can I receive B.level merit for a T.shaped task? Xia Chu's eyes lit up, but he remained calm and continued, "How much can I exchange for B.level merit?" The staff was very surprised and finally looked up at her. "At the beginning of summer, I saw a black mask on my face, and I couldn't see all of my appearance clearly. However, my helmet had already been taken off, and I could see a pair of eyes like autumn water. In the faint silver-white light indoors, they were as bright as stars, bright as an indescribable object." But when she asked, she tilted her head slightly, revealing the birthmark on her face. Under the skin as white as early snow, the red birthmark on the left forehead temple is particularly prominent. At first glance, it looked like a beautiful flower blooming on the other side. Upon closer inspection, the thin red blood vessels were clearly visible. Extremely beautiful and pure black and white eyes, surrounded by a ferocious red birthmark, with a hint of silent murderous aura added to the thick face at a glance. The staff was so shocked that they couldn't speak for a moment. Until early summer, when she saw her eyes showing confusion, she raised her hand and knocked on the counter made of an unknown material, making a crisp jingling sound. The staff member finally snapped out of his mind and asked again, "Are you sure you want to exchange your B.level merit for money? No one has ever exchanged a B.level merit for cash before." "Yes, sure," Xia Chujian said calmly, looking at the staff member with sharp and firm eyes. The staff lowered their head and calculated, saying, "You can exchange it for 500,000 Beichen coins." 500,000, Xia Chujian remained calm, but his bright eyes almost burst into a brilliant spark known as money. 500,000. Li Bing happened to approach and heard these words. He happily patted Xia Chujian's shoulder and said, "That's so much. We used to only exchange 500 yuan at most. 500,000 Beichen coins is enough for you to buy a 5-bedroom, 3-living-room apartment in the best western district and location of Mulan City. It also comes with an independent bathroom and kitchen." Ping Qiong also leaned over and said enviously, "My parents' annual income adds up to less than 10,000 yuan. They earned my parents' income for 50 years at first sight. Because the wages of ordinary people in Mulan City are too low, 500,000 Beichen coins are a safe and substantial sum here." Xia Chujian tried to maintain calmness, but the corners of her mouth slightly raised. While waiting for the staff to exchange money for her, she glanced back at Ping Qiong and casually said, "Xia can also exchange money." She knew that what Ping Qiong hated the most in her life was the name her parents gave her, so since Ping Qiong started elementary school, she gave herself a nickname called Xia. When Xia Chujian called her nickname, Ping Qiong was overjoyed and said excitedly, "I need to think carefully." "Think carefully. It's actually a B.level merit." B.level. Song Ming shook his forehead with a long bangs and never forgot to put on a pose. With a deep expression on his face, he said, "Many teams may not necessarily receive a B.level merit even after completing 50-year missions. What's special about this mission? Why can a T.shaped mission receive a B.level merit? The T.shaped task corresponds to a D.level merit, which looks only 2 levels lower than a B.level merit, but its value is completely exponential. Just like the difference between 500 yuan and 500,000 yuan. But why? Yeah. Why?" Li Bing and Ping Qiong murmured to themselves, neither understanding. Xia Chujian's eyes flickered slightly as he lowered his head and used a smart bracelet to send a message in the small group. "I advise you to also exchange it for money. In case the staff member makes a mistake in exchanging, it will not be easy to recover the cash." Upon hearing this, Li Bing, Ping Qiong, and Song Ming immediately nodded in agreement. After all three of them had exchanged for Beichen coins, the team leader Yi Shiji entered the hall. "What are you sneaking around together for?" Yi Shiji was very unhappy with his team and always resented it for not being strong enough. "Captain, hurry up and exchange money. B.level merit. It's probably a mistake." Li Bingda, who was as tall as a brown bear, ran over to pass the message to Yi Shiji. Yi Shiji's pupils suddenly narrowed and he said, "Isn't it a T.-shaped mission? How could it be a B.level merit?" "Yeah, right. That's exactly what we thought. So we all chose to exchange it for cash. It's safe to put it in the bag now." Li Tai happily patted the pocket of his long furry coat. "It seems like that 500,000 cash is in his pocket. Actually, that money is digital currency and has already been transferred to their personal account." Yi Shiji gave him a sideways glance and said, "No hope. Do you know how many good things B.level merit can be exchanged for that low.level merit cannot be exchanged for? You only know money. 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 Why don't you just hang yourself in the eye of money?" Li Bing was scolded so much that he turned back and said angrily, "Captain, what are you talking nonsense about? When that staff member comes to his senses, I can't even see you crying in time." Yi Shiji strode towards the counter, revealed his identity, and confirmed again and again, "Is it really a B.level merit? Are you sure you're not mistaken?" The staff was so annoyed that they couldn't bear it, so they directly showed them the page and said, "See. This T.-shaped task is the corresponding B.level merit." A few people stared at the virtual screen suspended in the air and fell silent together. Yi Shiji finally felt at ease and broke his silence, saying, "I don't want money. I want to switch to a higher level ability defense weapon, and also change the duration of spiritual training in the association's virtual system." Li Bing, Ping Qiong, and Song Ming looked at the money in their accounts and instantly felt that the huge sum of money was no longer attractive. For their genetic evolutionists, psychic weapons and mental training duration are the hard currency. If you want money, there's a bird to use. It's really because Xia Chujian, an ordinary person with this gene that can't evolve, has biased it. The three men complained bitterly in their hearts, and then rushed to the results counter again. "I want to exchange it back. I also want to exchange it back. And me too." The staff member changed their expression and said, "You think this is a vegetable market? You can change it if you want. It's not that easy. Unless you deduct the handling fee. Buckle it. How much can there be? I'll transfer it to you now." A few people were arguing, but in the end, they exchanged the money for superpower weapons and mental training duration. At the beginning of summer, I saw my infatuation and didn't change it. Looking at the amount of money in my smart bracelet account, I would occasionally show a mesmerizing smile. Everyone looked at her and instantly felt that the smile with the blessing of money was always particularly sweet. Yi Shiji turned his hands behind his back and whispered to Xia Chujian, "Are you a hunter? What's the use of asking for money? Or do you exchange it for some advanced defense special weapons? You don't have mental power, you have to guard against others using mental power on you." Xia Chujian refused and said, "Captain, I am just an ordinary worker. Hunters are just a job for me. What do I want if I don't want money? Don't use mental attacks as encouragement to deceive me. Let's not play around." Yi Shiji saw that she had eaten a heavy weight and was determined, so he stopped persuading her. He shook his head and said, "Whatever you want. The task is over today, and you can go home. I will notify you again next time there is a task." As soon as he finished speaking, the virtual screen hanging above the task release counter in the hall made a dripping sound, and then updated today's task content. The first new task scrolling on the virtual screen is to go to the exotic beast forest north of Mulan City and search for a rare plant called the blood kirin. This task level is not even at the T. level, but at the gun level, which is 3 levels lower than the T. level. Yi Shiji sneered, searching for rare plants like the blood kirin, or going to dangerous areas like the exotic beast forest, is just a mission with the rank of gung. Who takes on this kind of mission, who's stupid? At the same time, Mulan City was still asleep in the early hours of the morning. The best residential area in Mulan City, West 001 District, is brightly lit, like the most dazzling pearl under the night sky. Most of the residences here are standalone villas, and there are also high-rise buildings, but the distance between each building is quite far, not the distance that can be greeted by opening the window. In the detached villa community, there are carefully crafted beautiful scenery everywhere, and as soon as it gets dark at night, there are various light shows, which are simply magnificent. In the central area of the community, there is a beautiful parking apron of a single-family villa, where several private aircraft of various sizes are parked. Among them is the large private aircraft that just left the 6th-floor building at 334 West 089 District. The windows of the detached villa are all adorned with soft pink-purple velvet carpet-type self-heating, shading, and soundproof curtains. So although the villa is as bright as day inside, it is not visible outside at all, as if there is no one living in this villa. A tall and curvaceous lady wearing a veil was sitting in front of a bed on the 3rd floor of the villa, looking nervously at the young girl lying on the bed. That was just rescued from that dirty room. The girl's face was covered in red, swollen, and purple blood stains, making it difficult to see her appearance clearly. The clothes on the body should be newly changed, clean and tidy, but the black-brown whip marks on the exposed shoulders are shocking. A doctor wearing white protective clothing is conducting a comprehensive examination of the girl. Thank you for the rewards from the 2 major leagues, Wu Aitang, and Shallow Smiling Light Gauze. 2 new alliance leaders have been added to the Star Master. The leader of the alliance will certainly add more, as recorded in the notebook. Start adding once it's listed. In the new book period, I hope everyone can support recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and Xiaoxiang tickets. #carrot. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. No leave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. No leave. 5 minutes later, the doctor respectfully bowed to the middle-aged lady and said, "Madam, don't worry, this girl is in good condition. There are no signs of infection or invasion. She only has some skin injuries, which are not serious. She can quickly recover without leaving any scars with the medication developed by our Academy of Sciences." The noblewoman wearing a deep purple pearl-patterned veil let out a deep sigh, clasped her hands together and prayed, "Blessed by Bodhisattva. Praise the temple." Upon hearing this sentence, the doctor's waist bent even lower. A middle-aged woman with a butler-like appearance walked over to the doctor and smiled, saying, "Dr. Zhang, please come here. There are also prescription drugs, please prescribe more." "I know, immediately." The doctor was even more humble, almost trembling as he walked out of the room. He wrote a prescription outside and prescribed 3 times more medicine than usual before being sent out of a detached villa and boarded a small private aircraft that could fly automatically. It was this small private aircraft that brought him over. The private aircraft quietly took off in place, rose into the night sky, made a very smooth turn, and then suddenly flew uncontrollably towards the beast forest north of Mulan City. Not long after, a raging fire lit up over the forest of exotic beasts, and the small private aircraft exploded and crashed from the air. The only passenger inside, Dr. Zhang, died in the aircraft and was burned to the bone. In the detached villa, there is a virtual screen hanging in mid-air in front of the lady wearing a veil, broadcasting the scene of the small private aircraft exploding and crashing. She nodded calmly and instructed the person behind her, "Even if we go to the small building today, we must leave no one behind." The housekeeper behind the noblewoman bowed and went out to cook. Not long after, she returned to the bedroom and whispered in the lady's ear, "Everything has been resolved. Everyone, including the 23 boys and girls who were abducted together, as well as the subordinates and bodyguards who went to the small building with her wife today, have all died. The noblewoman wearing a veil let out a sigh of relief and said to the housekeeper. You grew up with me from a young age, and I handed her over to you. Can you guarantee that such a thing won't happen again? The housekeeper trembled all over and then showed a look of ecstasy. She knelt down on one leg in front of the noblewoman and kissed her hand, saying, Madam, don't worry. You give the girl to me. I will definitely protect her with my life. The lady nodded calmly and said, I believe in you. Continuing to ask, have all those family members around the girl been dealt with before? Since the girl went missing and was abducted, they have all been arrested by their subordinates. Well, since the girl has been found, there's no need to keep these people, including their relatives, all within the 3 tribes will be executed. Those who eat inside and steal outside are the ones who end up like this. Yes, madam. The lady wearing a veil stood up and walked a few more laps in the quiet bedroom, frowning slightly and saying. There's one more thing. Madam, please give orders. Before us today, who advanced to the small building and killed those human traffickers. These people must also be eliminated. In short, apart from the 2 of us, no one can know about the girl's abduction. The butler's heart skipped a beat and quickly asked, Madam, according to the information we received, it should be from the Night Hunter Association. Are you really going to take action against them? Hunters. Just a group of lowly people who exchanged their lives for money. The lady's worried face suddenly relaxed. I thought it was from the Special Security Bureau. It's better if it's not from the Special Security Bureau, you go arrange it. The housekeeper bowed and agreed. But just as she was about to leave, the lady wearing a veil called out to her again, her eyes flickering, and she whispered, it's better not to offend those crazy people from the Night Hunter Association. Well, you go find a psychic with a high level of genetic evolution and let him strike to death without leaving any traces. The housekeeper nodded knowingly and said, I understand. Madam, don't worry, even I won't personally come forward. I will definitely let this matter have nothing to do with us. The noblewoman lifted her head slightly with satisfaction, waving her hand arrogantly and without any psychological pressure, as if dealing with a group of irrelevant livestock. At this moment, Xia Chujian was at the entrance of the hall of the Night Hunters branch in Mulan City, waiting for Yi Shiji and the others to come out. They did not exchange B.level merit for cash like Xia Chujian did, but instead exchanged it for superpower weapons and spiritual training duration. Let's go, let's send Chujian home first. Yi Shiji waved to them and jumped into their team's small combat aircraft. Their team consists of 5 people, with only 1 person living in the northern district at the beginning of summer, and the other 4 living in the western district. Xia Chujian also jumped into the aircraft with Li Bing, Song Mingqian, and Ping Qiong. Her home address has long been entered into the address bar of the aircraft, just select the address and let the aircraft autopilot. The semi-transparent flight hood of the aircraft slowly closed, and a burst of white smoke sprayed from the tail, rising into the air and quickly entering stealth mode again. There are also many private aircraft in Mulan City, but combat aircraft are not common, so they usually enter stealth mode to fly over the city. This time, as usual, after setting up autonomous driving, everyone started doing their own thing. Yi Shiji took out a shield he had just exchanged, which seemed to be able to resist the power of a B.level peak psychic. Li's changes are all about the duration of mental strength, and he urgently needs to exercise his mental strength in order to be promoted to level D. Before the Song and Ming dynasties, Ping Qiong exchanged a pair of long boots, which were said to be made of the fur of a swift beast. When worn on their feet, they could run twice as fast as their original speed. Everyone is now exchanging the treasures they exchanged for their merits for exchange. When doing tasks, everyone can borrow from each other. Xia Chujian has never participated in these exchange activities with them because she is not a genetic evolutioner or has no spiritual power, and these things are of no use to her. But hearing the murmuring sounds between them was very comfortable, which freed her from the visual pollution of the disgusting tentacles she had just seen. She hugged her arms and leaned against the position of the co-pilot of the aircraft. Through the semi-transparent flight hood, she looked out the window at the night sky, and the corner of her mouth slightly curled up. The aircraft travels steadily and rapidly in the night sky. Suddenly, Xia Chujian sat up straight and looked under the aircraft, warning, "No, this is not the direction to my house." Her home is in the northern district, and the headquarters of the Night Hunter Association's branch in Mulan City is in the central district of Mulan City, so they should fly north. Now it is flying south, and below the aircraft appears the most chaotic and dark southern area of Mulan City. As is well known, humans with a slight economic strength will not live in the southern region. Xia Chujian turned his head and wanted to remind Captain Yi, who was sitting in the driver's seat. But she suddenly realized that the cabin was incredibly quiet. Just now, there were still voices of Ping Qiong and Song Mingqian arguing, as well as the voice of Li Bing flattering Yi. It seemed like there was only a moment, and all these sounds were gone. She looked at Captain Yi sitting in the driver's seat. He blushed all over, his hands extended forward as if he wanted to touch something, but he couldn't move at all. Staring at the display screen of the aircraft, my eyes were almost popping out. Look at the three people in the back seat again. Li Bing and Ping Qiong had already closed their eyes and tilted their seats, as if they had fainted. Song Mingqian also closed his eyes, but underneath his eyelids, it was clear that his eyeballs were trying hard to open, but he couldn't open them. Xia Chujian's heart sank as he reached out and pushed the Captain Yi from the driver's seat beside him, shouting, "Captain! Captain! Can you hear me?" Yi only focused his head, as if he had exhausted all his mental energy, and then his head tilted and he fainted. Xia Chujian doesn't know what happened to these four teammates, but she also understands that now is not the time to trace the root cause. When your teammates are unconscious and your aircraft is losing control, what you need to do is not panic, scream, or blame others, but rather immediately save yourself. The situation is urgent. Xia Chujian kicked the emergency button at the foot of Yi driver's seat. The driver's seat creaked upwards, then quickly slid down the pulley on the base to above the passenger seat of Xia Chujian. Xia Chujian also pressed the emergency button on the passenger seat and slid his seat onto the driver's seat. This is one of the emergency devices of this small combat aircraft. When the pilot encounters problems, they can immediately switch positions with the co-pilot through the lifting slide device inside the aircraft. Xia Chujian changed from co-pilot to driver and immediately manually controlled the control panel to stop the autonomous driving function. Once the autopilot is cut off, the aircraft will automatically cancel its stealth status until the stealth control is manually activated again. Xia Chujian must take over, otherwise once the automatic flight stops, the aircraft will have to fall down like a meteorite. And just as she cut off the autopilot function, the aircraft did indeed fall straight down for a second, instantly falling over a distance of 50 meters. But Xia Chujian quickly got started, and after an emergency lift, he pulled the aircraft up again. Fortunately, it was only 2 o'clock in the morning at this moment, and there were hardly any other aircraft flying over the city, so there was no need to worry about colliding with them. So after a brief flurry, she stabilized the aircraft. Where is she flying? Xia Chujian's first reaction was that the aircraft malfunctioned and her 4 teammates also had health emergencies. At this time, she had to fly towards the branch of the Night Hunter in Mulan City, which was to turn back and fly north. There are both mechanics who repair aircraft and senior physicians who specialize in treating genetic evolutionists there. She held the handle of the aircraft and began to make a sharp turn in the air. She turned quickly and quickly raced forward for a kilometer. Oh! What's wrong with this? My head. This was the mournful voice of Song Mingqian. Someone attacked. First sight. Quickly. Run. Yi also briefly woke up and gave intermittent instructions to Xia Chujian. Xia Chujian took a cold breath and said, "Someone attacked." Who? A person with strong spiritual power. Yi Shiji said and fainted again. Song Mingqian in the back seat remained silent, clearly feeling dizzy again. Xia Chujian's heart seemed to ignite a fire, eager and angry. She remembered the tentacles she had encountered today on the 6-story building, which were said to have strong spiritual power, and it was them that made her teammates dizzy all at once. Are their tentacles causing trouble now? Is it because she killed their own kind, so she came to seek revenge? This idea only flashed through her mind at the beginning of summer, and she dismissed it. Because she remembers very clearly that those tentacles at that time would not interfere with the automatic flight of the aircraft. Otherwise, how could she possibly fly a spacecraft alive to save her teammates? Excluding those tentacles causing mischief, then only humans are the spiritual powerhouses. Can even the mentally strong individuals in normal humans use their mental power to intervene in the automatic flight of aircraft? Never heard of it. At present, their entire team is on the aircraft, and she also has to manually pilot the aircraft. The situation she faces is not as good as before, dealing with those disgusting tentacles in front of a 6-story building. At the beginning of summer, my heart was burning with anxiety. She focused her energy, while contacting the base and driving, hoping to fly back to the Night Hunters base in Mulan City as soon as possible. How could she possibly handle those genetically evolved psychics in mid-air alone? She doesn't have any mental energy at all. Communication seems to have been cut off, and there is no way to contact the ground control system at the base. It seems that someone has come prepared. In a hurry, Xia Chujian could only put on his helmet and turn on the soundproofing equipment again. Knowing that doing so would have no effect on mental attacks, she had no other choice. Fortunately, she has not yet been made unconscious like her teammates. As she accelerated her flight, a shuttle-shaped aircraft gradually emerged in mid-air about 10 kilometers behind her. The person inside the shuttle drone let out a soft, "hey" sound, as if surprised that the person who was crushed by his spiritual power could continue to pilot the drone. But just over 10 seconds had passed, and the aircraft had distanced itself from him. It seems that he needs to do both. The person's eyes narrowed slightly, snorted, and mercilessly pressed the missile launch button on their aircraft. He is not worried that the people on that aircraft will contact the ground, because his shuttle-shaped aircraft has very advanced electromagnetic shielding equipment, which has long shielded electromagnetic waves from a radius of 50 miles. The other party cannot send any distress signals at all, only he can bypass the shield and contact the ground. However, he doesn't need to be in contact with the ground either. He is a genetic evolutioner and also a C-level peak psychic. He just needs to synchronize the video to the cloud system of StarNet as evidence for the final payment. According to the intelligence he received, there are 4 genetic evolutionists in the team in the front aircraft, but only 2 D-level and 2 E-level, and there is one ordinary person who doesn't need to be mentioned. In short, his C-level peak killing D-level E-level is like slaughtering pigs and dogs. There's no need to be so troublesome. Goodbye, he sneered at the small combat aircraft ahead and waved his hand. At this moment, the aircraft seen in early summer issued a crazy lock warning. A red missile model circled around the locked position on her aircraft dashboard. Waves of eager electronic simulation sounds echoed through the narrow space of this small aircraft seen in early summer. The aircraft is locked by a missile. The aircraft is locked by a missile. 10 seconds left for the missile to hit and lock the target. In the new book period, please support recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and Xiaoxiang tickets. *******. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 6 yuan in a row, wishing everyone a good spring festival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. 6 yuan in a row, wishing everyone a good spring festival. At the beginning of summer, with a slightly heavy gaze, he gritted his teeth and quickly turned the handle, making a sharp turn. The entire aircraft turned 180 degrees again, flying north and then south again. Now, the micro-missile rushing over from the opposite side is clearly visible. Xia Chujian immediately calmed down. She almost didn't even think about it. She pressed the button with her fingers, locked the incoming micro-missile, and also launched a micro-missile, directly colliding with the micro-missile that locked their aircraft on the opposite side. Boom! A dazzling flame lit up in the darkness, and a small mushroom cloud bloomed in the night sky. Xia Chujian laughed. She knows that she can't escape after being locked by a missile, unless she directly kills the missile that locked them on the opposite side. The person with the peak of C-level spiritual power was furious when he saw the micro-missile he had launched, but it was resolved in such an incredible way by the other party. How could it be? How could it be? I am the pinnacle of C-level. The pinnacle of C-level. Isn't that team's highest spiritual power level only in the mid-D level? This is impossible. This person roared wildly in the shuttle aircraft while unleashing his spiritual power at all costs, vowing to directly kill everyone in the opposite aircraft. The condition of the teammates in the aircraft suddenly deteriorated, and Li Bing and Ping Qiong, who had a low level of mental strength, had already begun to bleed from their 7 orifices. But Xia Chujian did not see all of this. She was not influenced by any factors and directly entered a state of undisturbed war. While the other party was making efforts to launch a mental attack, Xia Chujian had already activated the weapon controller of the aircraft and launched a fierce attack on the shuttle-shaped aircraft. Although there is no stock of bullets on their team's aircraft, there are still a few micro-missiles. That's their only remaining wealth. Xia Chujian locked the opponent's aircraft and mercilessly pressed the button for missile launch. Whoosh! 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 6 micro-missiles roared out together, from top, bottom, left, right, front, and back in 6 directions, saturating the seemingly high-end shuttle-shaped aircraft. No matter which direction the aircraft is heading, there will always be a micro-missile waiting for it. Unless the other party can also lock the positions of 6 micro-missiles and launch attacks simultaneously. In theory, it holds true, but in reality, the distance between the 2 aircraft is too close. Even if the other party can actually lock the positions of 6 micro-missiles at the same time and launch 6 micro-missiles at the same time, it can only cause the other party's spacecraft to be shattered by the 12 missiles being bombarded. This is the dead end of either advancing or retreating. Boom! There was a deafening roar, and the enemy did not resist at all. 6 missiles hit the shuttle at the same time. Xia Chujian originally thought that there would be at most 1 missile hit, but he didn't expect to hit 6 yuan in a row. The shuttle-shaped aircraft was instantly shattered and fell to the ground, as if in the next meteor shower. Is it so easy to eliminate it? That's a genetically evolved psychic. Xia Chujian dared not relax his guard and continued to search in the smoke after the explosion. Sure enough, he saw that the person was not killed by the explosion, but jumped out of the steaming flames and plummeted downwards. That person parachuted. Xia Chujian wished she could immediately take out her sniper rifle and give him a bullet, but she still had to manually operate the pilot of the aircraft, otherwise the entire aircraft would fall. Just as she was so angry and cursing, a thick black mist suddenly filled the entire space above the southern district. Not only was it surprisingly black, but the black mist seemed like a viscous liquid. Under its cover, all people or things seemed to be stuck in a quagmire, unable to move a single step. At the beginning of summer, I suddenly felt an increase of hundreds or thousands of times in resistance ahead, and the aircraft seemed to have fallen into glue, as if it had been pinned down. At the same moment, a faint roar echoed in the night sky. Several people, Yishiji, who were already about to wake up, fell into a deadly coma again, and their faces turned blue and their vitality quickly dissipated. At the beginning of summer, sweat was about to burst out of my palms. Calm down. You must be calm. The situation was extremely eerie, and her mind was in turmoil for a moment before stabilizing again. No matter what happens ahead, her primary goal is to first deal with the psychic who ambushed them, and not let him escape alive. Seeing the aircraft struggling to move in the thick black mist, Xia Chu gritted his teeth and tried to release the autopilot handle. Perhaps due to the influence of the thick black mist, although the aircraft was descending, its descent speed was very slow, as if it was blocked in mid-air by something. So she had plenty of time to deal with the psychic skydiver first before operating the aircraft. At the beginning of summer, seeing his heart racing, he picked up his gun case and assembled his Judge No. 7 sniper in 5 seconds. With the other hand pressing the button on the control console, a gap slowly appeared in the semi-transparent hatch of the aircraft. The sniper rifle I saw in early summer hit me. The psychic powerhouse who parachuted from the shuttle was also falling not far below her, but was clearly affected by the thick black mist, and the speed of the descent was incredibly slow. What Xia Chujian didn't know was that the mentally strong person had actually lost control of their body as early as the faint roar started. He had a splitting headache, wanting to cover his head and roll around, but he couldn't even lift his arm. This spiritual pressure that fills the world has never been heard of, never seen before. This person's heart was gripped by great fear, and he deeply regretted taking on this task. Xia Chujian didn't feel anything at all. She pulled off the special night goggles on her helmet, raised her sniper rifle, and in the cross-shaped field of view objective, the person slowly opened the parachute. At this moment, another mutation occurred. In the scope of the sniper rifle, a huge tentacle fell from the sky. Compared to the thick and thin tentacles she had seen in that 6-story building before, the diameter was 2 or 3 times larger. Xia Chujian quickly looked up and looked up. She wants to know where these tentacles come from. Previously, she had only seen the man with tentacles protruding from his mouth. But now she's in mid-air, and the direction this tentacle extends is even higher than hers. Is it possible that there are still people in the sky? As a result, she saw that in the night sky above her, the round moon was no longer like the moon, but was wriggling, and becoming a rectangle. It's like a door, with black clouds rolling inside and nothing visible. That soul-chasing tentacle extended from the rectangular moon door. What exactly is behind the rectangular moonlit door? Xia Chujian tightly hugged the iron-hard sniper rifle in her arms, giving herself courage. Now only this gun can give her a sense of security. She could see that this time the tentacles were even more powerful than last time. Because it swayed in the air and split in half. A spiritual powerhouse pierced towards the person who was slowly falling down with the parachute, went straight down from top to bottom, hissed and pierced through the parachute, then penetrated through the person's zenith, directly exploding into a mist of blood. Meanwhile, another tentacle flew towards the aircraft seen in early summer. That tentacle has become thinner and thicker, and at the top it has become as sharp as a cone. With a loud bang, the tip of the pointed tentacle fiercely pierced into the aircraft seen in early summer. A hole appeared at the top of the aircraft, and the tentacles broke through the cabin, pointing straight to Xia Chujian's head. Xia Chujian, who had been holding her sniper rifle, didn't hesitate to raise her hand. The barrel of the sniper rifle, which had just been pressed against the gap in the corner of the cabin door, directly pushed up against the tentacle that was about to explode her zenith. The tentacles seemed to feel obstruction, and the tip of the pointed cone suddenly opened up, like a dark red starfish, right above her muzzle. Then, in the center of the starfish-like tentacles, a long vertical pupil appeared, staring fixedly at her. The vertical pupils were shrouded in black mist, not like eyes, but rather like a mirror, reflecting an unknown situation. The boundless black, the bottomless evil. It's the kind of sticky and extremely malicious disgusting gaze. At the beginning of summer, I saw goosebumps all over my body. She closed her eyes and said harshly, "Fuck off you. I hate tentacles the most." Xia Chujian pulled the trigger of Judge 7 sniper at all costs. Kazuo. 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 She withdrew her magazine 3 times in a row and fired 3 lightning bolts. The sniper bullet shot fiercely against the vertical pupils at the top of the tentacle, and the huge recoil pressed Xia Chujian directly onto his seat. His right shoulder was almost crushed by the butt of the sniper gun. The tentacle seemed unprepared for such a lewd operation and stiffened in mid-air. Then, a deafening roar came. Like a black smoke, the thick tentacles that pierced through this small combat aircraft dissipated before her eyes, disappearing in front of her as if they had never existed before. Not only did this tentacle disappear, but the other tentacle of the psychic who had just exploded outside also disappeared in an instant. Only the hole in the overhead cabin proves that she was not a hallucination just now, but that something had indeed broken into the cabin and even wanted to kill her. In early summer, I frowned. This time, it's completely different from the tentacles she killed last time. Xia Chujian remembers the last time she hit those tentacles, leaving her limbs scattered and emitting the aroma of gunpowder roasting carbon-based high-protein organisms. But this time, she could feel that her sniper bullet seemed to hit a place without anything, and she didn't even know where it had flown, but the tentacles in front of her did disappear, so her sniper shell was considered hit, but not completely hit. What a masterpiece! In early summer, I saw my pupils suddenly tightening, and a chill rose from my back. Her whole body's blood surged into her brain, adrenaline soaring rapidly, and she dared not relax her guard at all. She still held up her sniper rifle, aiming at the hole at the top of the cabin that had been pierced by tentacles. At the same moment, in her sight through the scope, she saw a gray figure leaping out of the rectangular moon gate above her head. Then, another thicker tentacle chased from behind the rectangular moonlit door, unwilling to let go of the gray figure jumping out in front of it. After poking out the rectangular moonlit door, the tentacle began to split again in the air, dividing into 2, 4, 8, and 16 in this endless division. In an instant, the dark night sky was filled with dense tentacles. The only thing they avoid is the location of the aircraft they saw in early summer. Xia Chujian didn't know everything about it. She hid in the aircraft trembling and tightly closed her eyes, her fingers almost unable to pull the trigger. As a patient with tentacle phobia and dense phobia, this scene is truly double the mental pressure. At this moment, she really understood what mental attack means. Even more terrifying than mental attacks, it is mental pollution, a presence that can't help but dig out its own eyes at a glance. Xia Chujian groped to activate the invisibility mode of the aircraft, then silently recited the compassionate Nanwuxing Turlin Bodhisattva in his heart, set up the Star Turlin 800 fully automatic intelligent machine gun, and prepared to fight back to the death. At this moment, shining rays sliced through the thick black mist and shot towards the dense tentacles protruding from the rectangular moon door. In early summer, even with closed eyes, one can feel the white light shining in the sky outside the aircraft. She activated the visual protection mode of the helmet's eyepiece before daring to open her eyes and see through the special eyepiece of the helmet. Suddenly, my spirit lifted. That's not ordinary light, that's the power of portable miniature laser rocket launchers. At the beginning of summer, I was so intoxicated that I instantly felt my body and mind washed clean, and no longer felt fear and nausea. This is the legendary laser standard weapon. She has only seen videos on StarNet, so let's not talk about the price. The key is that it is not sold to the public at all, only some elite personnel within the Empire can equip it. In this comparison, the latest sniper rifle in her hand doesn't even smell good. This is the difference between conventional weapons and space-based weapons. Xia Chujian looked in the direction of the beam of light and wanted to see which hero was equipped with this sophisticated weapon. Below the aircraft is the ground in the southern area of Mulan City. At this moment, Lieutenant Yi Nanping, Group 12, Zone 3, Mulan City branch of the Imperial Special Security Bureau, was leading his team to fight the thick black mist for life and death. They left Building 334 in the West 089 area and headed directly to the next mission, arriving at the Wheel Lane ambush in the South 404 area of Mulan City, constantly observing the high altitude. So they saw the fierce battle between two aircraft in the night sky just now, as well as the saturated and chaotic operation of an ordinary combat aircraft, killing the more advanced shuttle aircraft. But their focus is not on these two aircraft, but on the round silver-white moon above their heads. When he saw the silver moon wriggling, and turning into a rectangular moonlit door, Nanping gave orders to his team members. "Take your positions." Unexpectedly, a thick black mist quickly descended from the rectangular moon gate in the sky, and several long tentacles rushed out, attacking the aerial targets indiscriminately. The person who parachuted from the exploding shuttle, as well as the combat aircraft that just defeated the shuttle, are all their targets. First, the skydiver was hit by the tentacle and turned into a mist of blood. Then the small combat aircraft that just won was also penetrated from the top by the tentacles, and there is a high probability that there are no living people inside. Just because of the viscous nature of the black thick fog, the penetrated aircraft is still floating in the air and has not fallen. Strangely, those two tentacles then let out a roar and suddenly disappeared from mid-air, causing them some confusion. Wishing everyone a happy spring festival. Good luck. End of this chapter. Chapter 7, Come and See the Immortals, New Year's Greetings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7, Come and See the Immortals, New Year's Greetings. Nanping and the others didn't hesitate for long. A gray figure leaped out of the rectangular moon door, and the tentacles chasing it split like raindrops in the sky. "Here we go. We'll pick you up immediately," Nanping ordered in the team channel. "This is the person they are ordered to wait for here today." The tentacles that followed from the rectangular moon gate were dense and terrifying, chasing straight towards the gray figure. Nanping once again ordered, "Aim. Shoot." Under his command, his team members exhausted all their mental strength, broke through the sticky resistance, and raised their portable miniature laser gun to aim. Although each movement is slow, it is very neat and uniform. They aimed at the tentacles that were chasing everywhere and pulled the trigger with a clattering sound. Shining beams of light illuminated the thick night, like the fireworks that bloom every New Year's Eve in the Beichen Empire, more brilliant and intense than the flames that destroyed the shuttle-shaped aircraft just now in early summer. The next second, those laser weapons resembling arrows and rainbows hit the tentacles protruding from the rectangular moon gate, but did not cause any damage to those tentacles. Instead, they all returned in the same direction, as if reflected by a mirror, and hit the people firing on the ground in the opposite direction. Their bodies were riddled with wounds and holes caused by the reflected laser energy, almost all of which died instantly, falling on the dark streets of the southern district. Xia Chujian silently watched everything as her fingers instinctively tightened the trigger. In less than a second, hundreds of people died on the ground, with only one person still struggling to survive. This person is exactly Nanping. Because he is the commander, he did not immediately shoot with his subordinates. Looking at the group members with a gruesome appearance, Nanping's eyes turned red, his eyes were about to crack, and his teeth were biting with a clattering sound. He looked up at the night sky, and the gray figure that had jumped out of the rectangular moon door was still falling. Due to the influence of the thick black mist, the person seemed to jump into the mud at an incredible speed. And the tentacles chasing over were already very close to the person's back. Nanping's heartbeat became increasingly intense, and his mind was spinning rapidly. What should he do to catch the person who jumped down? The thick fog in front of them not only hinders their actions, but also reflects their attacks. What else can he do? The thick black mist made him resist immense pressure even when he spoke. This kind of pressure, just like the pressure he felt during diving training in the deep sea before. Nanping hesitated for a moment before making a choice. He stared at the tentacles rushing towards him in the dark night sky with his eyes fixed on them, using all his final mental strength to condense a black gold dagger from the center of his eyebrows and fly out with a thud. Unlike the laser miniature cannon, this dagger, condensed with his spiritual power, seemed to ignore the thick black mist barrier and instantly came to the longest, thickest, and fastest chasing tentacle, piercing fiercely. The tentacle was pierced, stopped for a moment, twisted again, and then, as if pushed by an unknown force, the black golden dagger returned from the original path with lightning speed, piercing towards Yi Nanping's eyebrows. Xia Chujian, who had been silently watching with a sniper rifle in his hand, could no longer resist. Bang! The sniper rifle rang out, and a sniper rifle bullet ignored the viscous properties of the black thick mist, shooting out like lightning and flying away the reflected black golden dagger. At the moment of impact, the black golden dagger fluttered away like a shadow, leaving only a faint golden glow, like fireflies drifting in the night sky. Yi Nanping used his spiritual strength to condense a black gold dagger that had never been successful before, and it was already the end of a strong crossbow. The sniper shell seemed to have hit the air, whistling past him, and a low pressure rushed towards him, as if being hit hard with a sledgehammer against the door, sweeping away all the air in front of him. He fell to the ground with a thud, his extremely hypoxic brain completely unconscious. At the same time, in the night sky outside the southern district, several supersonic armed helicopters were making loud explosions over Mulan City, rushing towards the military base outside the city. But before they arrived at their destination, the people in the armed helicopter saw a strange sight across from them. A thick black mist descended from the sky, completely enveloping the destination ahead. It's like a triangular cage formed by thick black mist. The slender top comes from the rectangular moonlit door in the night sky, while the triangular pyramid below wraps around the darkest and dirtiest South 404 district of Mulan City, the No Alley. Immediately after, the coordinate position of No Alleyway in the South 404 area disappeared from the active phased array radar of the armed helicopter, as if it did not exist at all. Report. Report. The target ahead is disappearing. The target ahead is disappearing. Laser detection. The armed helicopter immediately fired lasers towards the thick black mist. But when a laser shot through, the thick black mist appeared like a mirror, reflecting the laser back straight. With a loud whoosh, the armed helicopter emitting the laser probe was instantly pierced through the engine by the reflected laser. The armed helicopter immediately spun down and crashed, and the pilot quickly parachuted to save his life. The dense fog ahead blocks laser detection. In the next 3 minutes, these people tried various attack weapons and detection tools, and finally came to a conclusion. The black dense fog ahead is triangular in shape, 3 kilometers high, with a bottom diameter of 500 meters. It cannot be physically penetrated, and existing technological means cannot observe it, reflecting all attacks. There is no electromagnetic or biological signal that can overflow from the black mist triangle, nor can it enter from the outside. Its nature seems to be the existence of a cosmic black hole, but it does not actively attract external objects. If it is really a black hole, it will actively absorb everything around it at a certain distance completely. And this black thick fog only reflects and does not absorb anything outside the fog range. This means that rescue efforts from outside cannot enter, and at the same time, it seems that the people inside cannot come out. What should we do? It's said that the Special Security Agency has an action team inside. Report to superiors and elevate the emergency level to the highest level. At this moment, the gray figure that had jumped out of the rectangular moon gate in the night sky had already reached mid-air, and was very close to the aircraft that had been seen in early summer. The tentacles chasing him are getting closer and closer. Because Xia Chujian's aircraft was in an invisible state at this moment, the person couldn't have seen her at first, but seemed to have noticed something. He turned his head to take a glance and happened to meet Xia Chujian, who was fully armed and wearing a helmet inside the aircraft, in mid-air. That person can't actually see the situation inside the aircraft. But in early summer, it can be seen through the special eyepiece of the helmet and the dual mirror protection of the sniper rifle sight, allowing for visibility of the outside world. This is a man who should be very tall, with long black hair draped over his shoulders, pale skin, black eyes, but a crazy red light in his eyes. The nose is tall and straight, with a slightly hooked tip, making it a standard hooked nose. Just looking at his face, this person's appearance looks a bit familiar at first glance. Xia Chujian didn't have time to think about why this person's face was familiar. The speed of the tentacles that followed surged, striking fiercely behind the falling figure. In early summer, Xia reflexively pulled the sniper rifle and the bullets whizzed away, causing the tentacle that was about to attack the falling figure to dissipate. But there are too many tentacles in the night sky, and she only has one Judge 7 sniper, which cannot deal with all the tentacles. Just as she had emptied all her sniper rifle bullets, the rolling tentacles finally found an opportunity to chase after the gray figure, pass through her chest with a thud, and take the person's heart. Then he hung the person on the tip of his tentacles and shook in front of the flying machine he saw in early summer, as if demonstrating. Xia Chujian held on to the sniper rifle in despair. If that tentacle attacks her aircraft again, Xia Chujian has no fighting power because she has no bullets left. But she is not so easily submissive either. No bullets, she still has a knife. The latest Judge 7 sniper has a bayonet that can automatically eject at the top. When Xia first got this new model of sniper, he once roasted about this crazy design. Who would make a sniper fight a bayonet with someone? But now, she suddenly understood the significance of this design. Xia Chujian's eyes gradually became cold. His fingers pressed a button on the sniper gun, and a bayonet with a bright blood-red light shot out from below the muzzle of the sniper gun. As long as the tentacles outside dare to attack her again through the hole above her head, she will definitely kill her without mercy. What she didn't know was that although the tentacles outside filled the entire night sky, they tacitly avoided the location of her aircraft, leaving a hollow in the shape of an aircraft in the rain of tentacles. At this moment, in the airspace outside the thick black mist, a silent bat-shaped aerial fighter rushed over and silently revealed its shape in the night sky, appearing in front of the armed helicopters of the local garrison. The cabin door opened and a tall man wearing a black background and silver border standard military uniform stood out, followed by two people wearing the same style of standard military uniform. The three of them took a step forward, like walking in the air, into the thick black mist that no one could enter in front of them. The local station troops in the armed helicopter opened their mouths wide, each one as if they were looking at a deity. Who is that person in front of me? I don't know, but that's the highest level bat-style aerial fighter. It can jump into space. Only marshal level personnel can equip it. Is it? Don't guess, I just received news that the leader of the Imperial Special Security Bureau and his two adjutants have just jumped from the Beichen Star domain on the other side of the Imperial capital. In the thick black mist, despairing Xia Chujian was regretting that he couldn't save the person in the end, regretting that he shouldn't have fired all the 100,000 bullets in the 6-story building. She clenched the sniper rifle with the bayonet protruding, intending to fight the bayonets with those tentacles. At the same time, 3 men wearing black and silver border military uniforms appeared ghostly in her crosshair field of sight. The tallest and tightly buttoned standard military uniform at the front outlines his strong broad shoulders, slim narrow waist, and towering long legs. The brim of the military cap was pressed very low, almost covering half of his face. All he could see was his sculptural straight nose bridge, perfect lip shape, and firm jawline. My spine is straight, and the 4 words, "Noble Qi is naturally formed," are written all over my body. He stood in the black mist, with a faint layer of silver around him, enveloping him and the people around him, his thick and swaying tentacles unable to touch them at all. 2 men behind him were guarding him, only looking around cautiously, without looking up to see the moon in the sky, which had become rectangular. The person at the forefront is the youngest marshal of the Beichen Empire, Huo Yushen. The 2 people behind him are his aides Kong Shanqing and Meng Guanghui. Watching the thick tentacles rolling in the sky, Kong Shanqing and Meng Guanghui were both surprised. Huo Shui. Is this a relic? Why are there so many? But the next moment, they woke up and said, no. This is not real. This is all illusion. Standing at the forefront, Huo Yushen remained silent, flipping his hand, and a silver long bow appeared out of thin air in his palm. The next second, a golden long arrow appeared silently, resting on a silver bow. Huo Yushen's face was cold and stern. He raised his hand and bent his bow, shooting fiercely towards the dark rectangular moonlit door. Miso. In early summer, I only heard a resounding sound echoing between heaven and earth. She saw with her own eyes that the golden arrow was not directly reflected back like the black gold dagger or those laser weapons just now, but was like a golden lightning bolt, piercing through the tentacles of the sky, drawing a curved track, and shooting straight into the rectangular moonlit door. In the next moment, the thick tentacles in the sky disintegrated inch by inch, disappearing into the night sky like smoke. Just like the tentacle that penetrated through the top of the aircraft cabin just now, she shot it without a trace, as if it had never existed before. A heart-wrenching roar suddenly came from behind the rectangular moonlit door, like the roar of an unknown ancient monster, or like a painful scream from a certain human. As if it came from a distant wilderness, and as if it was separated by countless rivers of stars, crossing the boundaries of time and space, it rushed towards us, filled with the unwillingness and anger accumulated in endless years, and overflowing with indescribable cruelty and madness. At the same moment, the entire area shrouded in thick black mist heard this roar. Just like the residents around the small building in the western district, the residents in the southern district also woke up from their sleep and rolled on the bed, as if someone was holding a knife in their head, trying to cut open their heads from inside to outside, one by one in excruciating pain. The mental pressure they are under is countless times higher than in the western district. Many elderly and children with weaker bodies have already died at the moment of hearing this roar. The stronger residents are currently struggling on the brink of life and death. At this moment, a clear and high-pitched voice rang out from afar, like the roar of a phoenix or a dragon, perfectly cancelling out the brutal roar that seemed to come from an endless abyss or a black hole in the universe. New Year's greetings. Thank you to the book enthusiast Enigmayanxi for becoming the third leader of this book. Reminder for recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and Xiaoxiang tickets. As mentioned earlier, the update frequency is to update one chapter every day at midnight during the new book period. When it's listed, it will be 2 shifts a day. At present, we have not decided on a 2-day update time after it is launched. ********. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Are you teaching me how to do things? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Are you teaching me how to do things? The residents within a radius of 10 miles around here seem to have walked through the gates of hell, sweating profusely and waking up from the pain. Xia Chujian was completely unaware of this. She just felt that the roar coming from behind the rectangular moonlit door was too unpleasant to hear. Previously, she thought the roar of the tentacle monsters in the 6-story building was extremely unpleasant, but compared to the current roar, it was not her younger brother, but an ancient great-grandson. She tugged at the corner of her mouth and silently activated the sound blocking system on her helmet. Her world suddenly quieted down, and she happened to miss the clear phoenix and dragon roar behind her. In the night sky outside, after the earth-shattering roar, the rectangular moonlit door in the sky wriggled and transformed back into a silver-white circular moon, pure and flawless. The black mist gradually rolled and began to dissipate in waves between heaven and earth. In early summer, in the field of view of the sniper rifle objective lens, I saw the gray figure that had just been strung at the tip by the tentacles. With the disappearance of the tentacles, it lost its support and was rapidly falling down. The man holding a silver long bow nearby took a step back. The 2 men behind him quickly took a step forward and caught the gray figure that had already been pierced by tentacles. That person was already dead, so far apart that even Xia Chujian could see the big hole in his chest through the scope. Although tentacles may fly and disappear, the damage they cause is actually real. Boom! As the thick black mist dissipated, the aircraft seen in early summer also lost its support and plummeted rapidly. At the beginning of summer, I regained my senses and quickly manually operated it again, rapidly pulling up my aircraft before continuing to descend. At this moment, the man who shot the golden arrow glanced in the direction where Xia Chujian was. Xia Chujian is convinced that his aircraft is in an invisible state, and the other party should not be able to see its existence. But when she thought about the punctured hole on the top of the aircraft, her confidence was not particularly strong. Okay, let's go in early summer. Xia Jian quickly manually accelerated the aircraft and fled from the southern airspace, flying rapidly north. The silver long bow in Huo Yushen's hand quietly disappeared. He withdrew his gaze and walked freely in mid-air, breaking through the dissipating black mist and walking towards the bat-shaped fighter jet hovering outside in mid-air. Kong Shanqing and Meng Guanghui, the two adjutants behind him, witnessed what had just happened, and they were a little frightened. Really dangerous. Fortunately, those are not physical remnants. They are just illusions. They carried the person who had jumped out of the rectangular moon door and followed behind Huo Yushen out of the thick black mist. That person has a big hole in their chest and is already dead through. Entering the bat fighter jet, Huo Yushen stopped and turned back, his gaze cold and solemn, looking at the person carried by the adjutant. He's dead, the mission has failed. The two adjutants had a slightly chilly expression, and a layer of cold sweat crawled over their backs. They all know what this person's death means. Meng Guanghui sighed and asked anxiously, Huo Shui, should we send him for an autopsy? Huo Yushen glanced at him and turned around before leaving. Meng Guanghui awkwardly scratched his head and ordered, send this person to the medical team for autopsy. Kong Shanqing is also arranging his subordinates. Once the black thick fog inside clears, you can go in. The investigation bureau will send people to clean up the scene, not leaving any traces behind. Also, let's see if the team responsible for the Special Security Bureau's operations has been completely wiped out. Yes. A person wearing a white protective suit walked over and cautiously said, Chief, the instrument has detected an ultra-high frequency belonging to the legacy species in the external airspace. Please accept the inspection. Huo Yushen didn't even look at him and turned around to leave. Leaving Kong Shanqing at the door, he explained to the person wearing white protective clothing, those things in the thick black mist are not leftover seeds, there's no need to investigate. No. But the frequency of instrument detection is the same. Are you teaching me how to do things? I'm sorry, Colonel Kong, it was my mistake. The person wearing a white protective suit had a look of fear and anxiety, hurriedly bowing away with the instrument. 5 minutes later, all traces on the ground were cleaned up, all evidence left at the scene was collected together, and all sacrificial members of the Special Security Bureau were also sent to another Kuan transport plane. Kong Shanqing approached Huo Yushen with a serious expression and reported, Huo Shui, the team sent by the Action Department this time, except for Lieutenant Yi Nanping, the leader of Group 12 in Division 3, all others have died in service. After verification, they were all killed by laser standard weapons reflected back. According to our rules of action, when encountering remnants, we need someone with strong mental strength to take action and should not use space-based weapons. The failure of this operation is the responsibility that cannot be shirked by the Lieutenant Organization Yi Nan of Group 12 in Zone 3. Huo Yushen looked up with an extremely calm expression and said coldly, did Yi Nanping order the shooting? Yes, I just inquired. But he said he ordered the use of space-based weapons only after witnessing a case where a species was killed by conventional weapons. Yi Zhong was killed by conventional weapons. When did it happen? Huo Yushen gestured, do you have any action videos? Have you uploaded them to headquarters? Kong Shanqing understood Huo Yushen's meaning and immediately said, Lieutenant Yi said it was uploaded. Huo Yushen let out a faint and withdrew his gaze, ignoring it. But Kong Shanqing still stood in front of him with no intention of leaving. Huo Yushen looked up again and gave him a cold glance. Some sniper shells were found on the scene. Kong Shanqing gritted his head and presented the shells in a transparent evidence bag to Huo Yushen with both hands. Leader Yi said that someone saved his life with a sniper rifle. Huo Yushen slowly sat up straight and said. Sniper shell casings. Found them on the scene. Yes, it was found on site. Huo Yushen's eyes were slightly fixed. Kong Shanqing instantly understood the meaning of Huo Yushen. Just now, in the thick black mist, he saw with his own eyes that Huo Yushen had fought against those tentacles and had first-hand experience. Because the remnants in the thick black mist are not tangible entities, but illusions created by energy. Based on their experience, not to mention illusion, even physical remnants cannot be dealt with by space-based weapons. Who is so talented? Can you still shoot into the air in that situation? Huo Yushen glanced over the bronze bullet case in the transparent evidence bag and asked calmly, "Where is Yi Nanping?" His mental strength was severely damaged before he woke up to accept questioning. Huo Yushen suddenly stood up and walked out of his single-room office. The space inside this bat fighter jet is very spacious, and there is also a dedicated treatment room. Huo Yushen arrived at the treatment room and saw Yi Nan lying flat in the medical cabin. Several military doctors were staring at the instruments to read data and assess his injuries, while organizing treatment plans. As Huo Yushen walked in, the people in the treatment room raised their hands and saluted, "Hello, Chief." Huo Yushen made no statement and went to the side of the medical cabin without saying a word, standing at the backlight position behind the medical cabin. Kong Shanqing, who followed in, quickly said to the communicator on the medical module, "Lieutenant Yi Nanping, Group 12, Zone 3, Mulan City Branch of the Special Security Bureau. I am Kong Shanqing, Director of the Intelligence Department at the headquarters of the Special Security Bureau." Yi Nanping lay stretched out in the medical cabin. He had just woken up and received a round of inquiries, but his mind was still dizzy and his reaction was very slow. However, when he heard the words, "Director of Intelligence," he immediately regained consciousness like a conditioned reflex. He is not unfamiliar with the name, Kong Shanqing, at all. He is one of the most capable aides around the big shots of the Special Security Bureau, and at a young age, he is a colonel. Yi Nanping hurriedly said weakly to the communication equipment on the top of the medical cabin, "Hello, Chief. I am Lieutenant Yi Nanping from Group 12, Zone 3, Mulan City Branch of the Special Security Bureau. Chief, I did not complete the task and did not receive our target person. It is my responsibility to cover up all the troops in Group 12, Zone 3, Mulan City Branch of the Special Security Bureau. I request to go to military court and take full responsibility for my dereliction of duty." At this moment, all the memories in Yi Nanping's mind came back. He remembered the thick black mist that reflected all the attacks, as well as the team members who died tragically due to the reflection of the attacks. Shame and guilt surged in his heart, and he wished he could die with them. Yi Nanping punched the switch of the medical cabin with a thud. The doors of the medical cabin are neatly separated on both sides. Yi Nanping supported the cabin wall and tried to sit up, feeling excited. "Chief. I don't deserve to lie here for treatment. I want to be with my team members." Kong Shanqing said without any emotional color, "I came here not to hear your repentance." Yi Nanping. My face suddenly turned red and purple. Fortunately, his skin was originally dark brown, and even his blush was not obvious. Kong Shanqing handed the bag of sniper rifle shells to Yi Nan's plane and calmly asked him, "You said you were saved by the sniper rifle?" Yi Nanping was stunned for a moment before quickly nodding and saying, "Yes." It was indeed a sniper rifle bullet that hit the reflected black gold dagger back then. Otherwise, the dagger would have pierced directly into my eyebrows. He touched the area between his eyebrows with lingering fear. "How did you know it was a sniper rifle bullet? Did you have an instrument to measure it at that time?" Yi Nanping shook his head and said, "I don't have instruments to measure, but I happened to wake up today at a critical moment of life and death, realizing the manifestation of spiritual power." Huo Yushen stood behind the medical cabin, but Yi Nanping did not see him. He is now even more indifferent, taking a step back and hiding himself in the dark. Kong Shanqing understood the meaning of every move by Huo Yushen, and he knew he was disgusted by Yi Nanping's verbosity. Kong Shanxing quickly coughed lightly to cover up and said, Leader Yi, there's no need to say anything unrelated to today's matter. Yi Nanping understood that he had not expressed himself clearly, and added with red circles under his eyes, it's like this. Today, when facing the legacy, we should have used our spiritual strength to resist. But with the emergence of those remnants, there is also a thick black mist, particularly sinister, which is not only extremely sticky and has huge resistance, but also can reflect all attacks. Our group members' mental power was completely ineffective, so I ordered them to use space-based weapons. As a result, they were all killed by the reflected laser after launching the micro-laser rocket launcher. I just realized that space-based weapons were not working, so I made a final effort and woke up, realizing the realization of spiritual power. It was a black gold dagger. I wanted to use the dagger that appeared to be used to save the target character. I didn't expect the same result. The dark golden dagger, which was manifested with spiritual power, was still reflected back by the black mist and pierced my eyebrows. Then I saw clearly a bronze sniper rifle bullet flying away the black gold dagger that I had used my psychic tools to reveal. Kong Shanxing felt puzzled and frowned, saying, Yi Nanping, should I give you more time to organize your language? Think about what you're saying for yourself. Organizational language. Don't you believe me? I'm telling the truth. Yi Nanping covered her chest and shouted hard. Kong Shanxing took a step forward and explained for Huo Yushen, Captain Yi, please think about what you just said. While you said that space-based weapons are not working, you also said that sniper rifle bullets hit the black gold dagger you used to use mental power. Your black gold dagger is a manifestation of mental power, illusion caused by energy. Can you tell me how sniper rifle bullets from conventional weapons hit your mental power? Yi Nanping was stunned. He only stated the facts and did not really consider whether this fact was reasonable. Moreover, he also thought at this moment that since the black thick fog could counterattack all physical attacks, why could the person who fired in the thick fog shoot a bullet to save his life without being counterattacked by the thick fog? He opened his mouth and made an inexplicable sound in his throat, but couldn't say a meaningful word. Kong Shanxing felt that he was not lying, and his expression softened slightly. He then asked, what kind of bullet is it? Since Yi Nanping had just awakened at that time, his 5 senses, namely vision, smell, taste, hearing, and touch, would elevate to another level, which is also the peak of B-level spiritual power. The awakened and unawakened are fundamentally different. From a scientific perspective, his vision and hearing can catch up with ultra-fast cameras after awakening. Yi Nanping regained his composure and said without hesitation, before I fainted, I saw clearly that it was a bronze sniper rifle bullet, with a diameter of about 29 mm and a total length of 150 mm. It should be the latest sniper rifle bullet produced by Zhongshe military industry this year. Kong Shanxing. He originally only expected Yi Nanping to reveal the color, shape, and approximate size of the bullets, and did not expect him to even reveal the manufacturer. Yi Nanping noticed Kong Shanxing's disbelief and quickly said, really? Also, I happened to handle a case today where someone used a gun. They killed Yizhong with conventional weapons. At that time, there were 100,000 bullet casings left at the scene, all of which were Zhongshe Military Industries 085 and 093 fully automatic machine guns and miniature submachine gun bullets. In order to investigate this case, I only retrieved all the bullets produced by Zhongshe Military Industry this year from my computer half an hour ago, and happened to see the bullets from the number 150 sniper rifle. That's why I ordered my team members to use space-based weapons. I thought they were all hot weapons, conventional weapons could fight, and space-based weapons were only more powerful. I didn't expect. Yi Nanping covered his face, tears streaming down his face. Unexpectedly, a momentary mistake led to the tragic death of all team members. Kong Shanxing once again asked, has anyone ever killed Yizhong with conventional weapons? Absolutely true. In addition to the uploaded action video, I have also handed over those residual limbs to the Special Security Bureau's Mulan City branch. You can check it out. New book period, remind recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and Xiaoxiang tickets. Also, could readers please add this book to the bookshelf? Also, don't cultivate literature. Don't feed me. Don't feed me. Hashtag carrot. Carrot hashtag. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Not giving the other party a way out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Not giving the other party a way out. Did you really encounter a physical legacy in the previous case, not a fantasy? Phantom. Well, the tentacles you saw in the thick black mist just now are not true remnants, but illusions created by some powerful being's energy. Nanping's face turned white and he said. Is it just a fantasy that's so powerful? If it's a physical. That's simply unimaginable. Meng Guanghui knew what he was thinking and shook the sniper rifle shell in the transparent evidence bag towards him, saying, Is this the kind of bullet? Nan calmed down and carefully looked at the transparent evidence bag. He nodded solemnly and said, Yes, it's these bullets. Why are there so many? I only remember one. Kong Shanqing remembered the illusion of tentacles in the sky and slowly said. Maybe the other person fired more than one shot. Nanping frowned and carefully recalled the situation at that time. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something, and his eyes lit up with excitement. He said, Chief. That person must be trying to help us. I remember. When we were just ambushing in the southern area, 2 small aircraft were bombarding each other over the southern area. Standing behind the medical module, Huo Yushen has always been calm and ruthless, knowledgeable and able to maintain his composure even when a supernova explodes in front of him. After listening to Nanping's narration, his eyebrows gradually furrowed. Kong Shanqing was even more surprised and said, Are you saying that the illusion tentacle once wanted to destroy the aircraft, but only successfully pierced through the aircraft from the top, and then the tentacle disappeared out of thin air? Yes, it just disappeared out of thin air. At that time, I didn't understand what was going on, but now you're saying that those are not real remnants, but illusions, so that makes sense. Only when the illusion is pierced can it disappear out of thin air. Huo Yushen's doubts deepened. He directly competed with the distant existence behind the illusion tentacle for spiritual power, which forced it to retreat. Before him, could anyone use their spiritual power to eliminate those illusory tentacles? What level does that have to be? He frowned in contemplation. In the thick black mist, he could indeed feel a certain direction in the night sky, as if there was something present. But he didn't feel any malice, so he didn't bother to inquire. It seems that the material existence should be the small combat aircraft that was not destroyed by the illusion tentacles. Nanping frowned upon seeing Kong Shanqing, thinking he didn't believe him. He nervously said, Chief, we have automatic cameras on our helmets. You can go watch the replay. I'm not lying. Kong Shanqing heard Nanping mention this and sighed and shook his head, saying, I just checked the equipment you carry with you. All the electromagnetic components are damaged, and there are no video recordings left. Since Huo Yushen said that the tentacles in the black thick fog were all illusions caused by energy, it can explain why the electromagnetic components were all damaged. Because there was a large scale magnetic field riot in that area. Nanping's face suddenly collapsed, and he was very worried that the leader might suspect him of lying. He quickly said, Previously, our team was handling the hostage incident in the North District, and there was also a video, which has been uploaded to the cloud system of the Special Security Bureau's branch in Mulan City. The leader can check it. I really didn't lie. Huo Yushen remained non-committal and quietly turned around to leave. Kong Shanqing quickly comforted Nanping and said, You are well healed. Let's talk about it after the injury is healed. Hurry along and leave. Huo Yushen returned to his single-room office in the Bat fighter jet and immediately opened the internal account of the Special Security Bureau to view the action video mentioned by Yi Nanping. Meng Guanghui and Kang Shanqing both followed in and looked at him nervously. Referring to the action log submitted by Yi Nanping, Huo Yushen watched the entire video with a calm expression and simply said, "There's a problem with the video." "Where's the problem? Do they dare to tamper with the video?" Meng Guanghui and Kang Shanqing were both surprised. Since Huo Yushen took office, no one in the Special Security Bureau has dared to touch such a demon moth. Huo Yushen's face remained calm, but his eyes were dangerous, as if on the edge of anger, yet he had great restraint, like a volcano that had not erupted in the deep sea. His hand rested on the desk in front of him, lightly tapping without a beat. Kang Shanqing is the more careful person among the two adjutants. He leaned over and carefully reviewed the action log, then recalled the video he had just watched and suddenly said, "The video seems to have some issues. We need to ask Yi Nanping again. What's the problem? Why didn't I see it?" Meng Guanghui bent down, squinted his eyes at the action log, and said, "The log says that according to the intelligence obtained, it was a judge from a cult organization who took hostages and held a 3-year sacrificial ceremony. When they arrived, they found 20.3 abducted boys and girls, but they were all dead. The video is the same. What's the problem?" Kang Shanqing glanced at Huo Yushen and saw that he had no intention of stopping him. He then explained to Meng Guanghui in a soft voice, "You also said that it was a judge from a cult organization who took hostages for a 3-year sacrificial ceremony. According to our information, this judge organizes a 3-year sacrificial ceremony, which requires 24 young boys and girls. Therefore, there should be 20.4 hostages, but there are only 20.3 people on Yi Nanping's video and action log, which is clearly one less person. Can't it be that judge organization that abducted someone else somewhere else? Unfortunately, all 23 of those people have already died, otherwise just ask them how many they are." Meng Guanghui muttered, still feeling that Huo Yushen and Kang Shanqing were somewhat helpless. Kang Shanqing frowned and said, "Xiao Meng, your reason doesn't align with the common sense of the judge's organization. Let's go investigate with Yi Nanping and ask him carefully about all the details of his last action. If necessary, we can use brain-computer interfaces to verify all his memories with mechanical intelligence." Huo Yushen raised his head and looked coldly at Kang Shanqing, saying only one word. "Cha." Kang Shanqing understood what Huo Yushen meant, whether it was missing someone or turning someone around elsewhere, he needed to investigate what was going on. Huo Yushen remained silent as he watched them leave his office and his gaze returned to the virtual display screen in front of him. Anyway, he knew there was indeed one person missing. Who is this one less? Where have you been? Why is it missing one? Huo Yushen will never overlook any details. At this moment, for Huo Yushen, even the matter of using hot weapons to kill and leave seeds is not so important. When the Bat fighter jets and Kun transport planes brought by Huo Yushen left here invisibly, Xia Chujian was also speeding at full speed. From the sudden appearance of those 3 people in the thick black mist, and the emergence of a silver bow and a golden arrow out of thin air, Xia Chujian's intuition became a crazy warning. At this moment, her only thought was to run as far as possible, and she didn't want to get involved with these people. She piloted the small combat aircraft of the team, flying north all the way, and finally arrived at the location of the branch of the Night Hunter stationed in Mulan City. At this moment, Yi Shiji, Li Bing, Song Mingqian, and Ping Qiong all woke up one by one. What happened? I remember it seemed like the aircraft went the wrong way. No, it seems that someone else is attacking us. They chatted with each other and then turned their gaze to Xia Chujian, saying, "Chujian, what's going on? Why are you okay again?" Xia Chu thought for a while and decided not to say anything for the time being, but looked at the hole on the top of the aircraft cabin with a guilty conscience and said, "Just now, after Yi Dui fainted, the auto-drive system of this aircraft was remotely controlled. I had no choice but to cancel the remote control system and operate it manually. Indeed, someone attacked us and they launched an attack, damaging our aircraft. She pointed to the hole on the top of the aircraft. Yi Shiji glanced at it and felt that it didn't seem like a hole made by conventional thermal weapons. It's hard to say, what if the other party has any new weapons? He said calmly, it's okay, the association can fix it anyway. This time we need to rest for a while, people need to rest, and machines also need to rest. Li Bing rubbed his temples in the back seat, feeling a headache and said, I've been mentally attacked twice in a day, and I feel like my mental strength is about to degenerate into an ordinary person. Song Ming collapsed in the back seat with a look of sorrow is greater than death of heart, not wanting to say a word. Ping Qiong groaned and reached out her hand to Xia Chujian, saying, Chujian, give me water. I'm almost running out of oil and the lamp is dead. Don't talk nonsense, Xia Chujian scolded her lightly and handed her a bottle of drinking water. Yi Shiji also rubbed his temples, glanced at Xia Chujian again, and asked, what about you? We've all been mentally attacked, and the other party has let you go again. Xia Chujian nodded solemnly and said, I'm wearing a helmet and using sound insulation equipment. The other party probably knows that I'm an ordinary person, so they didn't attack me mentally. Later, I promptly deployed a micro-missile and caught the other party off guard. Yi Shiji's face turned green and he said, micro-missiles. See you in early summer. You won't give up until I run out of ammunition, will you? After thinking for a moment, Xia Chujian turned on the built-in camera system on the aircraft and said, you may not believe it when you say it, but it was really the other party who took the initiative. I was just fighting back in self-defense. After the other 4 people on the aircraft finished watching the thrilling scene just now, they were all speechless for a moment. They knew that Xia Chujian was very talented in hot weapons, but they didn't expect her to be so excellent. First time I saw you on the expedition. As expected, nothing grows. First time seeing a bully. First time seeing a bully. First sight, I love you. How can I live without you? Everyone was singing and laughing, feeling a bit hysterical after the disaster. And it's 2 survivors within a day. This probability is enough to buy lottery tickets. Because they all know that if it weren't for the early summer meeting, the person who died without a burial ground now would be themselves. Xia Chujian is also watching the surveillance footage. She unexpectedly discovered that the scene that occurred in the thick black mist afterwards was not recorded at all. The whole scene came to a sudden halt when she blew up the shuttle-shaped aircraft. Song Mingqian was in a daze and said, a spacecraft locked by a thermonuclear site can still escape with such a naughty operation. First time I saw you, you can become an instructor at the association headquarters. Li Bing was so excited that he couldn't even care about his headache. He kept saying, Captain, look at you. How powerful the counterattack was at first sight. That's absolutely not giving the opponent a chance to survive. Today's update would like to remind everyone of recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and Xiaoxiang tickets. By the way, I bought a ticket for Wednesday to watch Wandering Earth 2. I love this genre. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The fire at the city gate affects the fish in the pond. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The fire at the city gate affects the fish in the pond. Although shooting 6 micro-missiles at once is a bit extravagant, there are 5 people on our aircraft. On average, each person only saves 1 life with just over 1 missile. It's worth it. It's worth it. Yi Shiji pursed his lips for a while before nodding stiffly. Well, since the other party started the fight, your counterattack is reasonable. It's just. He really wants to say that he can't launch 6 micro-missiles at once. If this continues, even the aristocratic family will have no surplus food. In their Night Hunter Association, they can only obtain equipment for free every time they receive a new mission, and they have to pay for the rest of the time. The hard-earned family fortune was squandered by Xia Chujian in just one day. Yi Shiji wanted to cry without tears. Careful analysis shows that the method used by Xia Chujian is the most effective, in order to ensure that the opponent has absolutely no chance of retaliation. For example, if the other party also locks their aircraft with 6 missiles at the beginning, no matter what Xia Chujian does, he cannot retaliate. This calls the other party's way, leaving them with no way to go. Yi Shiji felt sorry for his running out of ammunition and food, but he still said, "Forget it this time. Also, this incident is quite strange, so don't mention it to anyone else for now." Didn't even the superior report it? Li Bing asked inexplicably. "We were ambushed. Aren't the superior prepared to seek justice for us?" Yi Shiji said coldly, "Our aircraft auto-drive system was invaded." Xia Chujian immediately took up the conversation and said, "Yi team thinks there may be an insider within the association." Yi Shiji praised the girl's intelligence in his heart, and said with a straight face, "The aircraft of the association are managed by the information systems of each branch, especially the auto-drive system. Without the underlying password, it is impossible to invade our aircraft's auto-drive system. Someone within the association wants them to die." The aircraft was unusually quiet for a moment. Yi Shiji didn't dare to use the autonomous driving function again, but instead asked Xia Chujian to continue manual driving and calmly said, "Anyway, that person has already been taken down by us. Even the other person's aircraft has become a meteor shower. As long as we don't upload this video, we can treat it as nothing has happened. If the other party wants to stir up trouble, let's just calm down and see who is behind the scenes." Xia Chujian nodded and said, "The captain is right. It seemed like there was electromagnetic shielding just now, and I couldn't even upload it to the cloud. Then take this opportunity and replace the surveillance on the aircraft." Li Bing quickly found a new monitoring device from the backup equipment and replaced it. Yi Shiji said, "Both of these times were unexpected attempts to save us at first sight. I think it's because first sight is an ordinary person with no genetic evolution, let alone mental strength, so they are always ignored by the other party. In case something happens in the future, it's safest to have this surveillance video with her. At first sight, it's our lucky star. It's most suitable for you." Xia Chu saw the corners of his mouth slightly curled up and casually put the surveillance footage into the gun box. He solemnly said, "Then I'll keep it safe. All teammates need to be careful. I don't know who in the association wants our lives. It's okay, everyone is a bounty hunter. Who knows when you offended someone?" Li Bing shrugged and waved his hand indifferently. Song Ming looked up at the sky, unsure of what he was thinking. Only Xia Chujian felt that he should be an unlucky little pond fish, most likely because the captain Yi Shiji had offended someone. Some people wanted him to die, but they only caused collateral damage. She glanced at Yi Shiji calmly and wanted to stay away from him. Yi Shiji noticed her small movements and lifted his arm, snorting lightly without saying anything. Because even he himself felt that he should have come for him, and his team members were just pond fish affected by his city gate. Yi Shiji decided to send Xia Chujian home first. Because he, along with Li Jun, Song Mingqian, and Ping Qiong, lived in the western district of Mulan City, only Xia Chujian lived in the northern district. When I saw home in early summer, it was already over 3 a.m. She stood on the open space at her doorstep, waving at them and watching them leave. The home I met in early summer is located in the 177 district north of Mulan City, which is a very ordinary community where all the residents are working class. This community is located in the northern district, which is very close to the east because the area separated by a wall is the eastern district. From her residential area, you can see the towering skyscrapers in the eastern district. The eastern district is full of skyscrapers and walls made of silver-black special building materials. They are tall and straight, soaring into the sky, and have invincible sea views. They are managed by dedicated personnel, ensuring both the landscape and security. But in my own community, there are old buildings built with outdated scrap steel and concrete. The tallest buildings in the community are only about 10 floors, densely arranged together, and not even a palm can be inserted between the buildings. There is no landscape, let alone security. A wall is like a barrier separating a world. At the beginning of summer, the house I rented was located at 101E Building, 177 District north of Mulan City. Yes, it's on the first floor and it's the innermost small single room with only one room. The only advantage of this single room is that it has 2 doors, one inside the hallway and one outside the wall. So she can go home without entering the hallway. Because of the door on the exterior wall, she built a makeshift kitchen at the entrance. One side is built against the building as an inner wall, while the other 3 sides are built with cheap waste building materials, forming a square-shaped shed. The roof is also made of discarded building materials, and I don't know what material it is. Whenever it rains, the roof keeps making a constant tinkling sound, just like noise, and is often complained about by neighbors. There was only a rundown long table in the shed, with a second-hand induction cooker on top, which was their main cooking tool. Xia Chujian entered a small single room from this simple kitchen. The temperature inside the single room is the same as outside, it's as cold as an ice cellar. The intense fighting in these few hours has exhausted her. She was extremely tired and didn't boil water to take a shower. She lay in bed wrapped in thick down and fell asleep. Open your eyes and wake up, it's only 7 o'clock in the morning. At this time, she should wake up and go to school. At the age of 17, she is in her final year of high school and will take the college entrance examination next summer. But she doesn't miss books at all. She's usually busy working to earn money, so where does she have time to read? Her grades are not good either, she just passed all the subjects. How could it be possible to get into college? And even if she gets accepted, she can't afford the expensive college tuition. As for the 500,000 Beichen coins that were just transferred to my personal account today, they were not used to improve my life or school, but to save lives. Xia Chujian was in bed for a while and decided not to go to school today. She sent a message to the teacher using a smart bracelet, stating that she was sick and taking a day off. Then I went to the makeshift kitchen outside to boil water, took a quick shower, and changed into clean clothes. When she was boiling water for a bath, she plugged in the electric rice cooker and cooked a pot of delicious congee with the little rice left in the rice bucket at home and the black truffle and wild rhinoceros pork ribs sent by Aunt Chen, a neighbor. The black truffle wild rhinoceros pig comes from a mysterious exotic forest, a place that even low-level hunter teams like them dare not go to in early summer. I don't know how Aunt Chen can go picking up leeks once a month. At the beginning of summer, while washing up and looking out the window, my thoughts in my mind were like wild horses galloping freely on the grassland. Thinking about the 2 battles in the early morning, the experience of escaping death, still made her very vigilant. She has been with the night hunter for 3 years, and this is the most dangerous time. Fortunately, her marksmanship is accurate. Xia Chujian decided to spend more time practicing marksmanship. Fortunately, she had a little talent in firearms, otherwise she wouldn't have been able to survive in the night hunter. She took an old towel that had already turned white from washing and wiped away the water droplets on her face. Her face was tense and a bit cracked. But she doesn't have the money to buy any skincare products, even the cheapest cheap chemical products she can't afford. Change your clothes, it's already daylight outside. The temperature is not as cold as at night, but there's no sun either. It's foggy and not very visible. The spare ribs congee is cooked. It tastes delicious and makes people move their fingers. At the beginning of summer, I didn't drink at all. I just ate a tube of low-grade nutrient liquid full of plastic flavor, and then packed all the ribs congee in the insulated lunchbox and took it to the hospital. When going out, I met my neighbor Aunt Chen who had just returned from carrying a big bag. She looked up and down at Xia Chujian and asked with a smile, Chujian, went to the hospital to see your aunt again. Aunt Chen knows that Xia Chujian and her aunt Xia Yuan have been living together in this building for many years. Xia Chujian also quickly glanced at Aunt Chen. It can be seen that Aunt Chen has already cleaned up, but there are still some unhealed wounds on the back of her hand. There is a recently stopped bleeding wound on the side of her face, almost from top to bottom, cutting through the entire left face. Are you going to the beast forest again? Or was it beaten by her husband? Xia Chujian sighed in her heart and politely said, Good morning, Aunt Chen. Aunt Chen weighed the big burden behind her and smiled, You got up much earlier than my girl. Xia Chujian smiled and didn't want to talk about herself. She changed the topic and said, Aunt Chen, did you go hunting in the exotic beast forest again? It has been 3 years since Xia Chujian joined the team of night hunters, but he has never taken on the mission of the beast forest because it is too dangerous. Their team is so well equipped that they dare not take on missions to the beast forest. But Aunt Chen, an ordinary-looking housewife neighbor, has to go to the exotic beast forest once a month. I never come back empty-handed. She knew that Aunt Chen was using this method to support her family and was still saving up tuition for her daughter's college education. Because Aunt Chen's husband always beats and scolds her, saying that she is a useless person who only eats and doesn't work. Reminder to recommend tickets, monthly tickets and Xiaoxiang tickets. #carrot. Carrot #, end of this chapter.